Squeech.
And just like that, we are live on YouTube. Welcome in, welcome all. Coming at you live with another episode of the SFL show, brought to you by SFL Media. I am MPB. We got RJ in the building. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm getting hydrated right now. I'm ready to talk my head off. How about you?
I'm ready to do the same. I got some water right here. Maybe could use some throat coat, some cough drops to make sure I got my talking voice ready. But you know what? We're ready to party. We're ready to roll. So without further ado, let's get the slides going. This is episode 8. We're coming at you once more with a week 4 recap, some fantasy talk, and more. We got a Cards Commanders breakdown. We got another Vikes feature. What else we got up our sleeves in this episode, Reg?
Maybe some Thursday night football picks.
Perhaps.
Just some stats for sure. I'm gonna give you some stats. I love statistics. Love
Oh yeah.
numbers.
Oh yeah. We're about to throw a bunch of nerdy stuff at you as we always do. That's what we do best. Last thing I'm going to do here, Reg, if you have anything else to say, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, let me make sure I mute that. Uh, you might hear my audio come through. That would be my YouTube glitch. And there we go. We're good. I was just snatching that link so our SFL fam could join us. Reg, anything else before we launch here?
Let's get into it. Football. I heard there was a tweet I saw that says today is like gonna be the last day where we just don't have no sports or no football because the sports equinox is coming, NBA starting up, NHL starting up. It's a good time to be a sports fan.
It is a great time to be a sports fan.
Great.
We have no shortage of sports to look at. No shortage of football talk to jump into. So let's do that. One more time. This episode is brought to you by SFL Media. It's MPB. We got Reggie in the building. We're going to be also joined today by Kyle for the Vikings segment, potentially Killian for some SFL talk. We got a loaded episode for you guys today. But of course, our week 4 recap is going to start with our oldest segment. At this point, we have worked out the kinks. We're going to jump into our 2-minute drill here, Reg. Do you want the first half or the back half? I guess is the only real question before we jump into it.
I don't remember who did what, but I mean, I did catch a good amount of the primetime games. What about you? What do you think? How do you feel?
I did catch a good amount of the primetime games. If you got to watch part of the early slate for Red Zone, I might defer to you. Did you say you did or you did not?
I did not really know.
Okay. All right. Then you know what? We're free. We're gonna be
We'll just do it.
freewheeling this thing. Let's jump into it. I'll start. I'll do first half then. We'll get that 2 minutes up. You guys know how it goes. We're going to just do some quick headlines, quick thoughts that come to mind going through each matchup. We try to prep a little bit for this one. We also try to keep it a little bit open-ended and let the live adrenaline call to us. So without further ado, starting with Rams Bears, 2 minutes on the clock. Starting now, NFC West cluster fuck. Don't know where to go from there. Rams, Niners, Cards, all 1 and 3. It's crazy. Actually, I think Niners are 2 and 2, right? I totally lied about that. They got a dub. The Bears, though, finally figuring some stuff out. Looks like that meeting with the offensive coordinator did something. DeAndre Swift shows up. Awesome for fantasy owners. Don't know if that's sustainable. Hope it is for their offense. It opened up a lot. Eagles, Bucks. This is a rematch of the playoff matchup and seemed to be just as dominant in terms of it leaning towards the Bucks. Baker's been absolutely cooking. I have some notes on him later in the episode. Philly has got some problems. Saquon has been basically that entire offense so far. I know they were banged up down A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but you got to have some kind of identity outside of Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. I mean, you could argue the Ravens don't really need that with the Lamar-Derrick Henry combo that they have. So if they can make this more of a well-oiled machine, maybe it's going to work. But for now, I have questions. Vikes, we'll defer to Kyle later in the show. But man, SKOL. Saints, even though they lost this one, their 2 losses at this point back to back, they were in all the way to the very end. They still got a team. But Falcons pull it off. This division is going to be really, really fun to watch. Bengals Panthers, seem like the Panthers were in this for a while. Still not the situation you want to be if you're Cincinnati. Just hoping, crossing your fingers that you beat a 1 and 2 at that point. Panthers team, yeah, it's a dark hole to climb out of in that AFC North. The team is talented enough to do it. Let's see if they can actually put up or shut up. Colts, Steelers. Justin Fields, I think, won the job in that second half. He did enough, put enough on tape to show like the ceiling that this Steelers offense can have with him. Anthony Richardson, concerned this is the 3rd now NFL game he has started but not finished. Maybe even 4th in, I think, like 8 career starts. So not a good percentage there. Jaguars, dumpster fire. Texans, I'm surprised they only won by that much. And if you didn't realize, our timer is out, but we're not all like going deaf. And that's because I made sure to turn off the firework sound effect this time around. That is my 2 minutes, though. I will finish, since I'm right there, by saying I got a lot more thoughts on that Commanders-Cardinals games and the MPB Cards Corner coming up. But Jaden Daniels is legit. That's my headline for that. Reg, do you want to pick off where I left off? Do you want to go Browns-Raiders?
You know what, man? I'll try my best. I'll actually try to pick up from that Jags Texans. Let me see if I can do something here.
Let's go
I'm gonna
for
give
it.
you some quick stuff here.
All
All
right.
right, on
I'm
you.
starting. Yep.
Jags Texans. Doug Peterson. He had an interview. He said, "Is my job in question? It is in question. Fuck you. Your job is in question." It's just so simple. Texans are definitely kind of a question mark here. Only winning by 4. Nico Collins is kind of good though. Commanders, Cardinals. Jaden Daniels might just be in question for MVP as a rookie. Is crazy. Browns, Raiders. Devontae Adams. Well, I want to see him in a Commanders uniform. Actually, the Browns are brown, as in poop. Broncos, Jets. Who knew that 2 really good defenses would stop an old Aaron Rodgers and a rookie? Patriots, 49ers. The Niners did their thing. Can they win outright now and find themselves back in the Super Bowl? I don't know. Chiefs, again, kind of get bailed out again. It's kind of disgusting. And they are kind of paying for it by seeing injuries. Not going to say who or what, but we'll probably break that down. Cowboys, Giants. We talked about that. Cowboys actually should be worse off at 2-2. Bills, Ravens. Who knew? I was so wrong. I was wrong that I was right. I was right that I was wrong. That the Ravens running game just destroyed the Bills. The Titans, and the Dolphins. Yeah, Mike McDaniels is kind of nothing without Tua, I think. Seahawks, Lions. The Lions are just unfair. They were playing literally. It felt like I was watching like a Madden mobile game, like back when. Like they were just kind of destroying them. It's like an overrated, overpowered team right there, and then they kind of just put the honestly, the Seahawks did prove to me that they're not fraudulent in a sense, but they still did lose. So
Nailed it. And yeah, we forecasted that Seahawks Lions game was going to be a barn burner. Definitely ended up being that. I believe they averaged 80.3 points per game in their last 3 matchups going into this one. Damn near hit it again. Thank you. From now on, that game just needs to be prime time until all those key talented players are missing. Yeah, not too much to say like overall as a recap because we will touch on all of these games a little bit more. But any major headlines, any trends you're noticing before we jump into our next slide here, Reg?
it looks like a good amount of overs hit this week. I don't know the numbers. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 to 6 this week, which is pretty good if you like football and like scoring rather. The spread, the underdogs again had a nice weekend. Not like as it has been weeks past, but Denver +8 hit. LA Chargers +7 hit. So if it's a big dog, you really got to like think against taking the spread there as a favorite. But yeah, looking like it's more or less kind of changing, kind of not.
Yeah, this is definitely a league of trends. Definitely looks like some of the bad quarterback play for the first couple of weeks has corrected itself a little bit. Some of the defenses that were playing lights out have started to show a little bit more holes. Yeah, I think we're just in that part of the season. Teams are going to start getting more and more comfortable with their identity. They start getting more and more comfortable with their offense and the adjustments that they can make. Um, so I hope that it is even harder to predict moving forward. That makes for a fun NFL season, makes for a fun fantasy season. What is not fun in the sport of football and the sport of fantasy football, for the record, is injuries. It's the unpredictable, uncontrollable inevitability in football and sports in general, but still something that we have to address, something that we have to acknowledge, especially from our vantage point, just analyzing the NFL and the fantasy impact of some of these injuries. So obviously, some of the biggest ones we know about: Christian McCaffrey, ongoing story. Our last update we had was he was in Germany, getting some very special or seeing a specialist for something that wasn't available in the United States treatment wise. Um, what we're hearing now, we've heard, I think, like back-to-back days, there was reports of that he's going to start ramping up. He might be available in November, but also that he is now dealing with Achilles tendonitis in both legs. It might have been something that started with one. I think I saw a quote, I think it was from Kyle Shanahan, basically alluding to the fact that you end up overcompensating a little bit when you're in that rehab process. And that's kind of what happened. Got that other leg irritated, agitated. Not something you want to see as a fan of football. Definitely not something you want to see as a CMC owner. Presents a lot of questions, but Jordan Mason is rolling right along. So not like they are pinching themselves waiting for his return. Anything on that CMC injury or any of these top ones here, Reg?
It's just funny because like you draft this guy at number one in your fantasy team, and he hasn't played since. It's kind of rough. Like, of course, it's hindsight, but you know, round first pick overall is just not playing football until November.
Not only that, but a keeper in our league, probably a keeper in other keeper leagues. Just, yeah, really unfortunate. Other injuries here at the top of the list: Anthony Richardson. Very concerning. We talked about that for a little bit in that roundup. Leaves the game again. Joe Flacco comes in, does not miss a beat. In fact, Colts offense kind of opens up for a little bit. The addition of Josh Downs I thought was interesting. We'll talk about that at some point. But obviously very concerning. This is, at this point, a very real red flag for Anthony Richardson. This is a serious injury trend. Just can't stay healthy. Taking a lot of tough hits that some quarterbacks aren't taking. Some quarterbacks are able to avoid. Um, Another big quarterback with questionable injury history, Tua, is apparently symptom free. He's eligible to return from IR week 8. He wants to return if/when he's been cleared. Obviously, the football world will be monitoring that one really closely. Hope he makes the best decision for himself in his future. But for the Dolphins, obviously, getting an upgrade at quarterback would be massive right about now. Snoop Huntley probably not going to get it done in that tough division, at least in terms of the defenses they're going to be facing still. Malik Neighbors, my boy, my sweet baby in fantasy here, concussed on that really tough catch attempt on Thursday night. Haven't heard a clear answer on him just yet, but I think for the record, I think I mentioned this with the Trey McBride injury last week and ended up coming true. The like recent trend in the SFL or in the NFL is typically these athletes that are getting concussed are missing a game at least through concussion protocol. So Potentially some missed time for Malik Neighbors, but he does get the 3 extra days because they were on Thursday night, so that could help. Anything else you're catching your eye here, Reg?
Um, I mean, we could just quickly go through it. I mean,
Yeah, go for
Rushy
it.
Rice, that kind of sucks, right? I mean, that's your number one guy there in KC. Um, but it's almost like perfect timing, you could say. Like the fact that Adams wants out in Las Vegas, maybe we could see a connection there. I mean, I believe sources say that Adams is leaning towards the Jets or the Saints because he knows a couple guys here and there. But yeah, that's a bang bang play. Kind of just unlucky. We were talking about it before. Patrick Mahomes really just didn't need to do that, but he did that.
Yeah, whole thing was like snowballing in the worst way. Bad throw by Mahomes. He tries to make the tackle, goes basically clips Rashee Rice, who was making a hustle play and had knocked the ball out before Mahomes even basically dived. Just brutal, brutal luck. But yeah, we're hearing there is no official diagnosis yet, which is promising because you think you would hear already if it was a torn ACL. But wouldn't be surprised if he still misses some significant time. They still need to figure something out in that receiver room. Yeah, and like you said, we can run through the rest of these real quick. If you have any thoughts, jump in. Christian Watson banged up, went down. Tough for that Packer receiving room that's kind of been spreading out targets already. Will Levis made the joke earlier. Don't know if I've ever seen that many quarterbacks benched on an interception for an injury. But yes, I know he kept going, and the play that it looked like he got banged up on was when he was diving for the first down, made a nice effort play. But he has objectively not been playing well, leading the NFL in turnovers at this point. Mason Rudolph doesn't seem like a massive upgrade, but doesn't feel like he's going to turn over the ball as much as Levis has been so far. We'll talk about that more at some point, but still something to monitor. He's still a captain, still their starting quarterback. Nick Chubb, David Njoku, Browns probably stoked to hear that they're practicing this week. Probably just starting the ramp up here for Nick Chubb. But that would be huge for fantasy owners everywhere, especially in the tight end position right now. That is I don't even know how to describe it, a landfill in the SFL. David Njoku would be instant set it and forget it starter there. Cordero Patterson went down, which is bummer too. Looks like he was getting like really roped into that Steelers run attack before he went down. He was out touching, out snapping Najee Harris like pretty significantly. And that is just an ankle injury. I think he's just questionable. That might be day to day. And then, yeah, we had Bijan, hamstring, questionable for Thursday night. That's notable, obviously, because that's a quick turnaround. Brandon Cooks you brought this one up, has a knee infection, possibly from a surgery. Is that right?
Yeah, he had like a procedure in his knee in New York, and they found out that he had like a sort of knee infection from it, so he will not be playing this week. Yeah, it's just not great for Dallas. They even have, of course, you put here Micah Parsons, he's out. DeMarcus Lawrence on IR.
Yeah, those
Tough
injuries are
scenes.
starting to pile up in Dallas, and not where you want those injuries to be piling up. They're already very thin in some parts of their depth chart. But yeah, definitely a concern. I swear we're just adding dozens of names to this injury list on a weekly basis. Can we pipe down? Can we slow down? That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense if the game is shifting more towards the run game and
For sure.
like having more time, more bodies flying at each other at 20 miles an hour, stopping play here and there. I think it makes sense, but it's kind of fucked up, of course.
No, 100% though. You're right. Like my own personal anecdote there is the Lions Cardinals games. I had never seen that many stoppages for injury in one game, and that whole game was ground and pound, physical football. So yeah, if we are in that era, you are absolutely right. The big boys, the linemen, the running backs, probably going to start getting banged up. Even the receivers are getting banged up on like run blocking plays now and stuff. So That's the modern NFL we're in. Let's hope we have some better luck with that moving forward. But without further ado, Reg, you want to jump into our game recaps here. We're going to try to keep it at a nice 2-minute-ish tempo here, kind of give us a drill on each game as well. Do you want to start here with Saints Falcons?
Sure, man. I mean, Young Wei Koo, he's the guy. Look at him. He's got this sick little chain on right there, and he's just. I don't even know that's him. I just typed his name into the gifs, and I think that's him. But yeah, it's just funny to me that the spread for the underdog still hit here at 2.5, right? Because they didn't lose by more than 2.5, so it's great. I mean, the run game was great for the Saints. Like, you got Taysom Hill involved, 2 touchdowns from him. I'm pretty sure Alvin Kamara, like, damn, I could have had 3 there. But yeah, Carr's regression is making sense. He faced a high blitz rate this week. 50% of his snaps, he completed only 13 of 18 for 106 yards and an interception. The Falcons they learned from their mistakes, and they learned that not only they had to step up their pressure, but they had to step it up against this guy, Derek Carr, who was lighting up the league weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I remember you highlighting that he just hadn't been blitzed a ton in those first 2 weeks where they were just lighting it up. So definitely something to monitor, see how he continues to deal with that. Yeah, I mean, Taysom Hill could have had 3, 4 tutties in this game. They were having some trouble converting, ironically, in the end zone, or the red zone, I should say, once he actually left the game. So like some of those snaps probably would have gone to Taysom, who had no problem finding the end zone in the first half. Man, he's just like one of the most all-time confusing fantasy players, right? Like,
he's just a big football player. He's
dude,
just a football guy.
What an iconic legacy he's created in the fantasy football landscape. I remember him back in his BYU days. He was a Heisman finalist even at one point. But man, yeah. So like, long story short, this division is going to be fun to watch. Don't think I would have probably said that going into the year, but officially, I think all the teams are at least moving up from where a lot of people had them entering the season. I think it's not a shocker. The Saints are 2-2 now. They've come back down to earth a little bit, but they are still a legit squad. Still almost won those 2 games, and the Falcons are still working out the kinks. Panthers obviously have looked a lot better. Buccaneers are obviously much improved. So suddenly, an actually good football team is going to make the playoffs out of this division, if not 2. You never know.
Well, can I kind of give you a bit of like a stat here to kind of contradict potentially pushing in 2 good teams from this division?
Hit me.
This was the second victory in Falcons history where they scored 0 offensive touchdowns and 2 or more defensive special teams TDs. The last time was in Week 9 of 1977 over the Detroit Lions.
Insane. Scoring 26 points in general without an offensive touchdown is borderline unheard of. But to me, if anything, that says, okay, so then the Falcons defense is here and can win games. The offense is the one that is lagging right now. We expect to be improved towards the end of the season. I don't know. I honestly still think that there's a universe that 2 teams make it out of this division, especially with how weak the NFC overall has been lately. Moving on to the next game, though. We got Rams. We got Bears. This time I'll jump in first real quick. Caleb Williams, slowly but surely, get into NFL quarterback status. Still just not passing the eye test all the time. But he has time. He needs time to develop. This is a big gritty win for the Bears. Run game finally showed up. Really, really important to establish the run with DeAndre Swift. Hopefully that should help open things up for Caleb down the road, because I don't think a lot of teams were respecting that rush attack, at least before this game. Really tough for the Rams to start 1-3, decimated by injuries in the way they are. The NFC West, as I talked about a little bit earlier, though, still pretty wide open, as is the NFC in general. They just need somebody like the Seahawks to come down to earth a little bit, and they need to get red hot, which I'm never going to bet against Sean McVay, but big win for playoff landscape for the Bears here. They're going to need these games towards the end of the year when I imagine they're clicking a little bit better. Anything on this Bears-Rams game here, Reg?
Yeah, I definitely think Stafford needs some help. It was great to see Swift go crazy here, but man, it was tough for Stafford. He did his best on play action, 11 for 13 and 154 yards, but on traditional dropbacks, he only was 9 for 16 and only 70 yards, and of course an interception. He needs some help. He needs his stars back. And on conversely, yeah, Caleb Williams looking better, but I don't want to say like number one worthy right now. Maybe not yet. I mean, when you have Jaden Daniels, we'll get into that. But
it's the same thing as we were talking about with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud at this point last year. It's a tough comparison.
You got Caleb Williams though, 15 of 15 on passes under 15 air yards here on this week, completing over 21.6% of passes over expected. But if he was throwing more than 15, he was only 2 of 7. And one of which though was a late touchdown to DJ Moore. Before that, he was 0 of 5 on such passes. So he's, like you said, very slowly getting there.
Yeah, that'll come with time. And obviously the OC still working it out too. I like that they were as open as they were about their struggles in the first couple weeks. That shows, the sense of urgency I think needed to correct some of those things. Moving on though, we got Vikes, we got Packers. I'm sure we'll get some more nuggets from our Vikings insider Kyle here in a bit. But from an outside perspective, very impressive to see the Vikings continue their winning ways. We called this potentially the Coach of the Year Bowl going into this one. And if so, KOC is up 1-0. Him and B-Flow continue to be just a match made in heaven. And then Packers, obviously, like to see the grit here from Jordan Love to come back. They did not just go out quietly into the night. In fact, he looked really, really good from what I saw in the second half, and was like one bad interception away from potentially even completing this comeback all the way. What I did think was notable, though, was I believe only one sack generated by the Vikings pass rush, and they still get the dub, which is very far away from the tendencies that we had seen the first couple of weeks, where that was very largely responsible for them getting a big lead and staying in the lead. Yeah, nothing else too crazy on this game, though. Like to see the Vikes continue their winning ways. Do you have anything here, Reg, before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, like I put here, Sam nearly Darnold his way to a loss. But he is actually, according to NFL Pro, he is the first QB to win and have 2 or more passing touchdowns in each of his first 4 career starts for a team in the Super Bowl era, which is crazy. This guy's just balling, man, other than, the second half, but he is balling out.
A win is a win. I remember
a win is a win.
Yeah, I remember many slappy halves from Kirk, and the results all that matters at the end of the day. Vikings moving in the right direction. We're gonna keep it moving
one more
here.
thing though.
Yeah, go for it.
Got you one more thing though. Of course, the Packers, tale of two halves. 9 of 12 passes under 10 air yards in the first half for Love. He was more effective on the underneath passes in the second half. He was getting there, 2 touchdowns, 14 of 16, 117 yards. But yeah, he just struggled against the blitz throughout the day, completing only 16 of 25. and 2 of his 3 interceptions came from the blitz, actually. Kind of cool.
Thank you for those notes, and thank you for NFL Pro for making us geniuses on a daily.
Yes.
Game 4 of this Sunday early window here is going to be Steelers Colts. One of the big storylines we talked about. Rich leaving the game. Joe Flacco, Mr. Elite, comes in, doesn't miss a damn beat. Reg. Also, the next day, thought it was kind of funny. Comes out that the Browns never even offered him a contract to return, despite being comeback player of the year last year. I don't know, leading them to the playoffs last year. Which obviously not a great look for Cleveland when they're getting the level of QB play they're getting right now. But cool testament to the ageless wonder that is Joe Flacco, man. I mean, he wasn't a perfect game, but coming in cold, kept the offense going. I thought it was really interesting. I know I'm selfishly biased here because I am a Josh Downs owner in the SFL, but it really looked like their whole passing game kind of opened up with him. They hadn't gotten a lot of in between, like short to middle stuff in the first few weeks. Michael Pittman had really struggled in that area when he'd been good before. And all of a sudden, I feel like we were able to see the field get stretched a lot more vertically. Michael Pittman had a big game, got going again. And I think that was in large part because Josh Downs was suddenly taking those smaller slot routes. He scored a touchdown even from a nice little dot from Flacco. And I just think it's an interesting, different little wrinkle to the Colts passing offense that wasn't there the first few weeks. Flacco removed or Flacco being there. And then when you have A.D. Mitchell, who's still slowly being worked up as he's not even a full-time player at this point. But suddenly they have some guys that can really stretch the field. Like they can bring Alec Pierce, A.D. Mitchell with fresh legs to go run the damn go route. And I know Anthony Richardson can deliver that on the money. So obviously, like Colts on the struggle bus a little bit this year. 2-2 is better than some people might have guessed at this point. But I think they should mainly be excited about what they have in their building for the long term. Any notes for you here, Rich?
Yeah, I got some stats for you. Pittman, like you said, he caught 5 of 7 past the sticks for 111 yards this week, or rather last week. Even before Flacco got in, he was 2 for 2 on 60 yards from Richardson. Before Richardson, of course, got hurt. And before, weeks 1 to 3, Richardson managed to complete just 1 of 8. We talked about that before. 1 of 8 to Pittman for 13 yards, 2 interceptions. But again, yeah, Joe Flacco, it's just the fact that not only that he's just old, but he just knows the game. He's a vet. He knows the game. He knows what's going on. He knows how to play too high. And he's seen it all. He's Mr. Elite for a reason. But yeah, he completed 3 of 5 to Pittman for 51 yards. It's good if you have Indiana wide receivers to see Flacco in. Of course, on the other side, it's good if you have Justin Fields. He's balling out. But let me tell you about TJ Watt, who only managed to get just 1 pressure through 21 matchups with the Colts right tackle. He just couldn't get it down today or the other day. So that was probably a big factor for, Joe Flacco to go and sling the football, brother.
Yeah, Colts O-line showed up. They're not quite where they are when Jonathan Taylor had damn near MVP numbers, but they will push people around. They showed that against a really good front for the Steelers. Moving right along. Next game for that early window was Broncos Jets. If you had to watch this game from beginning to end, I am sorry. The game of football is more fun than this, I promise. But yeah, 10-9 final score. Man, was it like 3-0 at halftime? It was something like that. Just brutal performance. I had made the joke, I think, in our preview. Maybe the Jets are going to come out firing for Nathaniel Hackett. Nope, we just saw a vintage Nathaniel Hackett game instead. Not a whole lot of offense. It looked like they were stacking the box against Breece Hall like to a T. He could get nothing going. His usage and the wide receiver usage in general there has been really weird to start the year. Garrett Wilson, dynasty owners, I'm sure, are starting to panic just a tad because I don't think he is quite the quarterback proof wide receiver one he maybe was looked at as being at one point. But I will give some credit to the Broncos, where this defense is legit. Like, we know about Surtain, and unfortunately, former Cardinal Zach Allen has been balling on their D line too. They have some legit bodies. They have, like, as much as I feel conflicted about giving Vance Joseph, former Cardinals defensive coordinator, his flowers. He has done a lot with the ingredients that he has, and their defense has done enough to win games in moments and games like this one where Bo Nix is throwing for 60 yards, and they're still pulling it off against a former MVP and Super Bowl champion. So I think the Broncos defense is something you just can't ignore at this point. The rest of their team, I mean, it's Cortland Sutton, and good luck for everybody else. But I don't know. This was at least interesting to me that the Broncos defense was able to show up this much, even though the game itself was not interesting at all.
Yeah, it was definitely a snooze fest. It's funny, though, you break it down right at the end. The Jets kicker, Greg the Leg Zerline, could not convert and win Aaron Rodgers the game. But yeah, Patrick Surtain, he's just a monster. He covered Wilson for about 60%, 61% of his routes. Only got 2 of 3 for 22 yards with Surtain in coverage. And it's funny, the stat right here, Wilson's first target against Surtain came with 1:42 left in the third quarter. It was a 21-yard gain, but like you said, if you're a Garrett Wilson owner, fantasy, dynasty, it doesn't matter. It's kind of concerning. I mean, again, we can just look at the raw numbers. Alan Lazard still has more touchdowns, and he might even have more yards now, I think.
Dude, he might
I'm
have
not sure.
more. He might have more targets at this point
More
too.
targets for sure.
I'll go double check that while you finish this up.
Yeah, but on the other side, Bo Nix, he's the first. It's funny to say as a rookie, he's the first quarterback in Super Bowl era to win a game in which he averaged fewer than 2.5 yards per pass attempt with a minimum of 25 attempts. That's disgusting.
Oh,
I mean, he's getting records as a rookie. Who else is doing that?
Didn't he have somebody highlighted it in the SFL chat at one point? I think didn't he have
Minus
negative
7 yards?
Yeah, he had negative 7 passing yards close to halftime.
Yep. I mean, it's great, like you said. The defense looks awesome, but if they really want to win games, they got to put points on the board. They do not win this game if the Greg the Leg actually scores there at the end.
By the way, Garrett Wilson is outpacing Lazard by targets, 34-24. But Lazard is basically right at the same amount of targets, or catches, I should say. He's 4 catches behind Garrett Wilson. Yeah, it's weird, murky situation. I'm sure they will get better, but the early receipts aren't great on this offense right now. I think both teams honestly can feel good about their defenses through 4 weeks, though. And then we got Eagles, Buccaneers. We got a hold ass wink by Mr. Baker Mayfield right there.
Damn, he's so sexy. Sorry,
dude. He deserves all the fucking praise, man. It's so hard not to root for this dude. The amount of character stuff that they would highlight concern about him coming out of college when everybody universally loved him as a teammate, coach, whatever. I've never heard a bad thing about him from a teammate or from a former coach. And to see him kind of basically be given up on by Cleveland, only to have this total resurrection with Tampa Bay, it's cool to see. And it's not just a cool story at this point. He's playing high level football. I'll highlight it again in a little bit, but I just wanted to give Baker some love right there. Yes, he's absolutely sexy with that wink right there. As that was Reggie's thought first for the record, but also yeah, definitely interesting to see the Bucky Irving ascension too. If they can like make that a true committee, I think that's a nasty backfield. I don't know if they're gonna try to lean towards just having one or the other by the end of the year, but if that's just a true committee, I wouldn't be mad at that. I think they could both still be fantasy relevant, and for real football, like that's a scary backfield.
On the other side of the ball, though, the Buccaneers generated their highest pressure rate in a game with 48.6% since 2021 against, which was also against the Eagles, actually. They were very effective on the blitz, recording 8 pressures and 4 sacks on 15 blitzes. Yeah, Jalen Hurts did not have a good time. He was without his wide receiver 1, without his wide receiver 2. We know this. But man, it was a tough game for him. And then you could say on the other side, right? Break down the numbers, unless, I mean, you're probably going to break it down too. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, 30 of 47, 347 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. I think I saw you put this down to second quickest time to throw of his career, 2.2 seconds. Crazy stuff here for Baker.
He's just playing high level football right now, and I think a lot of people wanted to just give all the credit to Canales, the play caller last year. At some point, you got to give credit to the guy who's delivering those balls, and he's cooking right now. Philly's got some issues. They've shown moments of life. They can still be a playoff team, I think, but they got to get something going, and or they just need AJ Brown and Devontae Smith to be healthy forever, which
Yeah,
is not too much to ask, I guess, but definitely set them back. Do you have anything on this game before we move on, Rich?
just one more stat here. The
Yeah.
Eagles, they allowed 105 yards after missed tackles across 16 total missed tackles. Second most yards by a defense in a second most yards lost by a defense in a game this season. It wasn't good on kind of either side of the ball for them. So the lopsided victory here, it makes sense when you break down the film, you break down the stats. It should be a bit worrying for them as a Philadelphia. I mean, lucky for them, their division is kind of cooked up anyways. But rather, I guess you could say the Commanders are. It's kind of almost theirs to lose now. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I got.
crazy to say that, but I don't think you're wrong there. And then moving on, Sunday early game 7 of that window. We got the Bengals picking up their first dub of the year, albeit not a walk in the park here against the Panthers. Looks like the Panthers offense, dare I say, has officially figured something out here with Andy Dalton. I know that it's not something to just hang your hat on that you dropped 24 on the Bengals, but I mean, 24 points were hard to come by in weeks 1 and 2. I know that much. So it's cool to see that officially, like Deontay Johnson, back-to-back weeks had some high-level production. Chuba Hubbard, back-to-back weeks, high-level production. Looks like Xavier Leggett, who I found out that's the official pronunciation. I've been saying Leggett. But Xavier Leggett is probably going to be receiving a lot more targets as the Panthers receiving core continues to get a little banged up. But the real story here is, yeah, the Bengals finally pull one off. I put it here, a little note. I feel like they're in 2023 Bills territory right now because a lot of people wanted to write off the Bills season really, really early last year. They got red hot, figured out like some solutions to their fatal flaws, and we basically had forgotten about how much they struggled by the end of the year. I think the Bengals are talented enough to be in that same category, but it has to start now. So this was a necessary win, but now they need to go win some games that are going to be difficult. They're going to need to win some games on the road against playoff teams. They basically just need to lock into playoff mode now. And if I'm Cincy, like that's not necessarily the worst mentality to be in, because sometimes, I mean, how many times do we see that just the team that is just the absolute most red hot by the time they get to the playoffs is a team that, you know, makes a run. So like, obviously they got their back against their wall. They're one of the very few franchises that probably feels relatively comfortable that way, but it's very little margin for error for the rest of the season.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you remember our last episode, I was saying they could still not make the playoffs winning outright because of other teams' possibility winning themselves. But yeah, it's good for them. You know, their offense allowed just 5 pressures on 32 dropbacks. So Joe Burrow had plenty of fun, plenty of time back there. It was like a league low. They allowed just 19% league wide, or rather, it's the lowest rate league wide. I can't talk during week 4. So you love to see it. They got the talent. They got Jamar Chase still, T. Higgins. I mean, Chase Brown had a game. He had a great game. It's just the defense. The defense has to step up. Of course, I know it's the Panthers, but 24 points might not be. 24 points from the Panthers might not equate to 24 points from, say, the Texans or a 24 from the Chiefs. Like these other teams that do have the talent,
I
do
mean,
have
just to
the
jump
ability.
right in there, like you don't even have to go beyond their division. Like 24 points against the Panthers is certainly not going to be 24 points against the Ravens.
Right.
That's like, yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we saw it. We'll probably get into it later. Derrick Henry probably could have had 24 points on his own that game. But yeah, it's great game from Chase Brown, though. Team high, 80 rushing yards, 15 carries, 5.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Love to see it. Chuba Hubbard on the other side. I think you have him right in fantasy. Good stuff, too. 13 carries between the tackles, which was more than half his attempts. He got 74 of those, 114 yards there. Good game from him. Love to see the Panthers sort of becoming a actual NFL team here.
A competent offense with a competent quarterback, which we could not say at the beginning of the season. Fall short in this one, but definitely have to feel better about where they're at as a franchise. We got game 8 of the early window here. Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans. I think Jazz fans are feeling a lot like Doug Peterson in this picture. Like, what's going on here? What are we doing? Because their offense has no identity right now. The receiver that they prioritized in free agency that kept them from getting Calvin Ridley and Gabe Davis has been non-existent this year. Travis Etienne is like losing his role in the offense. It's desperation time in Jacksonville right now, and you got to start wondering. I put a little note here if this is a selling team at the deadline. Like Christian Kirk is on an expiring deal, if I'm not mistaken. You're locked into this Trevor Lawrence contract now. All of a sudden, like a team that I think wanted to hold on to these pieces to maybe make a playoff run or win their division might need to mortgage some of this talent just to have a future. So I don't know, tough place to be in. And if you're a fan of the Duval kiddies over there, but for the Houston Texans, this is the get right game you wanted to see. Obviously, it didn't want it to come down to as much of like a close game as it ended up being, but it's still a division matchup. These two teams don't like each other and have played in meaningful games. I mean, you just think back to like as recently as last year, it was flipped. Like the Jags were the darlings of the NFL. I feel like the first time these two teams played, and the Texans were a scrappy team that came out of nowhere. So I don't know. I don't have a ton of takeaways from this one. Like I think the main one is Jags stay bad, Texans right the ship a little bit. But it's just I think the biggest headline is the Jags have some real questions, and that also starts honestly with Doug Peterson's job security for the rest of this season.
Yeah, again, that's just so funny. Again, they had a press conference after this game, and a reporter was asking him, "Oh, Doug, do you feel like your job is secure?" I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, as if he has like a win under his belt here in the last 10 or so, probably more games at this point. Like, it's tough. I think though they did do their best. They almost came away, but not enough. When are they gonna like you said, really commit to some sort of identity. I mean, they came in and said, okay, we're gonna pass deep, we're gonna throw deep. It's clearly not working, especially in this defense, a lot of the defensive schemes today. But of course, on their defensive sides, they only blitzed CJ Stroud 2 of 45 dropbacks, which is very low, league low actually, by a defense this season, 4.4%. But it's funny though, despite not blitzing, they still generated 13 pressures and 2 sacks, which is funny to say. But of course, it's kind of like Dax, Duval, what's going on? But Nico Collins is going on, right? 115 of 100. Oh, sorry, 115 of his 151 receiving yards on 10 targets were over 10 air yards. That's explosive AF, brother. He was the best on his in-breaking routes. He got in 7 of 9 for 99 yards and a touchdown. He's I think he might just be number 1 wide receiver, maybe, probably. Like it's looking really, really good for him.
He's a monster. It's crazy. Like anybody that was able to get him at probably his lowest point of value, which was, I'd guess, like halfway through his rookie season, where there was a lot of peaks and valleys with Davis Mills. You got to steal, because we got a bona fide alpha wide receiver 1 here. Yeah, I would feel really good if I'm a Nico Collins owner. Feel really good if I'm a Texans fan, having that receiving core of the future, dude. They still got Tank Dell there as well. Moving right along to the Patriots and the Niners. I put a little Jordan Mason picture there because that man is still a runaway star of this 2024 fantasy football season. According to our league scoring, he is RB5 right now. Wouldn't be surprised if he continues moving in that direction too. These Niners are a wagon. We knew that. We highlighted this as maybe one of the bigger spreads that could be covered by the underdogs. That was never really in doubt here. Niners dominated wire to wire. I think for the Patriots, the big question is if now is not the right time to start Drake May because you think he's going to get killed behind this offensive line, when is that time? Unless you are committing to do a JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix thing where for different reasons and different situations, you're going to sit him on the bench for a whole year or more. Like, okay, maybe if that was your plan from the beginning, I understand that, but I don't really see this roster getting any more hospitable for this rookie quarterback by the time he is ready to start. So I think the questions of when they go to Drake May are going to start just piling in even more after performances like this, because yeah, you're not playing to go to the playoffs if you're the Patriots anymore. You are playing to form an identity, to carry something into next year, in my opinion, more than anything. And yeah, and I think you start that with your rookie QB you took number 3 overall. Any thoughts on this game, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be learning anything from Brissett, with all due respect to Jacoby. It's clear, like, the problem is the line. You got to address that in the offseason. At least give him a chance, give him more reps against these, I mean, I don't want to say terrifying defenses, but just something. Like, let him learn on his own. Of course, like, don't kill him too, but yeah. The bright side for them, though, is Christian Gonzalez. He's really good at playing football. He was able to, he aligned on the boundary for more than half his plays after only doing so just under 40% every other game. He lined up against Ayuk about 52% of the time, pressed him for about 44% of the time on 7 of 13. And of course, Ayuk, without a training camp, $120 million more richer, only got a reception for 10 yards on 2 targets when Gonzalez is the nearest defender. He's allowed just This is crazy. He's allowed just 2 targets for 12 yards on 5 total targets faced as the nearest defender. This guy is legit. He's very much a bright spot for the Patriots. Is there a world where they sell him?
I think there's no way you sell him. I think the defense is part of what is most in place for this rebuild. You use him as a cornerstone and you build around him. I think though, like just it was interesting that he's only allowed even that many looks in his way. But because I'm thinking one of the completions over him was that absolute dime Thursday night from Aaron Rodgers that could have been a pick six. So even like at least one completion I can think of off the top of my mind was like picture perfect coverage. Couldn't have been like better positioning there. But no, I think if you're the Patriots, you're excited about those kind of pieces like Christian Gonzalez, and you try to move forward with him as an anchor.
Of course, Brock Purdy had his day. Career high, 14.5 air yards per attempt here. Good year so far for Purdy, but 2-2 now really should be a better record here. They've got a very tough schedule coming up, I would say. Having, of course, going against your Cards, Seahawks, Chiefs, Cowboys, and then your bye week. After your bye week, you got the Bucks, Seahawks again, the Packers, and then the Bills. It's going to be a tough stretch here. They really might be kicking themselves for not finishing like 4-0 these last 4 games.
Yeah, it's going to be a gauntlet. They still have a ton of divisional games in front of them too. Yeah, it's you can't afford to be losing these games early. I know I'm in the same position as a Cardinals fan. It's tough. Football season is fully upon us. Game 10, Sunday, late window. We're moving into now. We got the Cleveland Browns and the Las Vegas Raiders. But before we jump into this one real quick, for those watching, anybody watching, whether it's live or after the fact, go ahead and drop a like real quick. That'd be super helpful. We're trying to grow a little bit here as a channel, as a brand in general. So anything for the algorithm, please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. It would be much, much appreciated. But just wanted to give a little disclaimer there before we jump into the rest of these late window games. Browns Raiders, we talked about in the preview. The loser of this game might be in jeopardy of losing their starting quarterback job. I don't know that it's going to happen right away, but I think that is still a relatively safe take to have when you're getting the quarterback play you are from these two. Minshew has flashed in moments, but has lacked any consistency like most of his career. And Deshaun is just sometimes feels like he's playing a different position. Same thing. He'll have moments that look like vintage Deshaun Watson, and then he'll have moments where it looks like he has been out of the game for as long as he was for, I think those like 2 years, basically dealing with everything. All that being said, obviously biggest storyline out of both of these teams afterwards is Devontae Adams requesting a trade despite the dub. I have a hunch that means this move was kind of lined up no matter how this game ended. Probably would have been more of a funny social media frenzy if they lose and then he requests a trade. But regardless of the timing, he wants out. Not a shocker there, especially if you watch the receiver show on Netflix. Just didn't seem like he ever was really invested in that system, that franchise. But they and the Browns are suddenly both in an interesting conversation of we were talking about sellers at the deadline. I mean, they have some pieces. Like obviously the Raiders had Devontae Adams. Max Crosby, too, is arguably the best edge rusher in the entire league. I don't think you trade Christian Wilkins right after signing him, but if you are waving the flag on the season, maybe that's another trade piece too. And so all of a sudden that's really interesting. Obviously, the Browns have the pieces we know about Amari Cooper, David Njoku's just getting back healthy, but I know that there'd be other franchises interested in coming after him. This just seems like both of these teams are really murky, weird situations right now. I don't really know how to read it outside of the football games that I'm watching, and the product they're putting out on the field right now is less than spectacular.
Yeah, I really think the Browns should trade Cooper, but they probably won't because they still got Chubb and Njoku gearing up. They really just, I think it's just Deshaun, the shit wants him. Uh, get that guy out of there. Like he's just terrible human being, terrible quarterback player. Speaking of terrible players, Zamir White. I mean, you have him right.
I
Really
don't want
bad.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck getting rid of him. Because let me tell you, the Raiders were effective at rushing the ball on the outside, or rushing the ball outside of their lead back Samir White, totaling just 6 runs that was hold on. Everyone else except Samir White totaled 6 runs that resulted in a gain of 10 or more yards on only 10 attempts, including a touchdown by wide receiver DJ Turner.
Yeah,
It's funny because yeah, go ahead.
Just gonna say, pretty sure Alexander Madison by himself had 5 carries, 60 yards.
Yeah, it's Zamir poop emoji White. The Browns defense came into the game having surrendered the 5th most yards due to missed tackles. Their inability to bring down ball carriers continued as they allowed 99 yards on 20 missed tackles, tied for most any defense this season. These two teams, man, just get them away from me. I don't want to. If they're in any prime time slots, get them away from me, brother. Do not want to see these teams.
Oh man, yeah. Well, it's this time of year when I think we have this clear cut of a picture of where these two franchises are heading. I mean, Devontae obviously has read the writing on the wall. He doesn't want to be there very much longer. I don't think we'll talk about his potential move too much more beyond this. So, real quick before we move on, obviously, Pittsburgh's been highlighted. Maybe New York with A-Rod, New Orleans with Derek Carr. Do you have a destination you think would be the best fit, or the one that makes the most sense?
I mean, I personally would love to see him go to Washington with the Commanders. That would be crazy to see. I think that just upgrades that offense even more. Of course, you're going to have to figure out the chemistry there, but I know that I've heard that it's between the Jets and the Saints right now because, you got Aaron Rodgers there in New York, Derek Carr down in the Saints. I believe the OC there has also worked with Adams, but yeah, I'd really like to see him go with the Commanders. That'd be just awesome to see football wise, fantasy wise. Yeah.
Yeah, I know for at least my from my perspective, if he was lined up on that Washington offense last week, they probably dropped 60 or 70 points on us. So, yeah, that addition to that well-oiled machine already in Washington would be insane. Moving right along, we got Chiefs, we got Chargers. Chargers really beat up in this one. Justin Herbert still was able to strap up the helmet and trot out on the field. Honestly, showed a lot of fight early on, this Chargers team, and I think they have continued to take on the identity of their new head coach, Jim Harbaugh. He's his energy, his enthusiasm, his love for the game is infectious, and I think it's kind of showing up pretty quickly on the team on the way that the squad is playing. At least 2-2, obviously not exactly where they want to be, but you have to be happy with that. Obviously, there was a loss, I think, to the Raiders. No, they beat the Raiders early on. I'm blanking now. The Steelers was their first loss.
Right.
Obviously, maybe they think they can win that one, but that's still a good, gritty team. This Chiefs team is obviously the team to beat in the league. And if you can, without Derwin James, I believe was Bosa missing for this one too. The fact that
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, well, I know for a fact they were missing Derwin James, who is arguably a top 2, top 3 safety in the entire league. And the fact that they were able to still make this as close of a game as they were, I think tells me a lot more about what the Chargers could be at full strength later in the year. Chiefs are still the Chiefs in every way that you could possibly mean that sentence. But Mahomes, I'm sure, will eventually start turning it around, but they got to figure something out at receiver. The Devontae Adams trade could make sense there, but I just do not see Vegas trading them to they're basically their kryptonite, their Achilles heel in Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Anything else on this game before we move right along here, Reg?
I would say it could be Tyreek that they would want back. That would be insane. But I know for sure those two are missing each other. I want to say maybe Justin Herbert's just average. We were really like thinking these last couple of years that he was going to rival Mahomes, but he's kind of declining here. I mean, I remember years ago seeing Justin Herbert's stat lines for like 400 yards, fucking 50 passes, crazy stuff there. But I mean, it is the offense that he's in. He's more run heavy. And that's with that. But of course, Travis Kelce had himself a day. Season highs and targets at 9, receptions at 7, receiving yards at 89. Makes sense now. He's going to be leading the way, hopefully, for the team with Rashee Rice out. It's Mr. Travis Swift time, I would say. And that's why I'm trading him away. It might be a mistake, but it is what it is. It's just fantasy. And let me tell you just one more stat here. Patrick Mahomes' 54-yard touchdown, something you probably loved when it happened, pass to Xavier Worthy, traveled 62.2 yards in the air. His longest completion by air distance of his career.
Wow, that I did not realize.
Can you believe that?
That's pretty nuts. I guess on a lot of the like crazy prime Tyreek stuff, he'd get it like 50 yards in the air, and then Tyreek would take it the other like 30, 40.
Right. And Worthy, of course, speedster, 21.46 miles per hour. Third fastest play by a ball carrier this season. They got the talent, brother.
Oh yeah. They'll get there, and like I think we talked about it in the last episode. I think if anything, we didn't realize how crucial Hollywood Brown's role was to this offense. Somebody that could really spread the field. I think Xavier Worthy will get there at some point. Not quite there right now, but love to see a flash like that. Yeah, I didn't realize that was his longest completion by air yards. Last thing I'll say, I'll push back real quick on the Justin Herbert thing. Definitely agree with you. A lot of it's just about the shift in identity to the Greg Roman's more like run heavy, ground and pound style. I think a lot of it's just the personnel too. Like the 400+ yard games. I mean, he had a prime Keenan Allen and breaking out Mike Williams, who was like quietly one of the best receivers in the league at that point. Now he's throwing to Quentin Johnson and Joshua Palmer and Hayden Hurst. Like that
Lad
is
McConkey, though.
Hey, Lad McConkey's been great, and he'll be great, a great long-term piece for them. But they just don't have that explosive offense that they've had, like just like personnel-wise. And I would imagine that's the kind of thing they start to prioritize in these next couple of drafts. And if they're going all in on Justin Herbert, getting like a real alpha receiver like that in the next few years could be huge for his development. Moving right along. Anything else on this game, Rich?
Maybe down the line they go and draft that Bama guy, Ryan Williams, 17-year-old.
17-year-old. If you have not seen any of his highlights yet, just go watch the Georgia game. That was redonkulous. Who knows? That'd be insane. Cardinals Commanders. I will have a full breakdown in just a little bit here in the Cards corner. Obviously, just headline, we got our asses handed to us. The Commanders were the better team from beginning to end. There are some things that I think definitely didn't go our way that like took the wind out of our sails even more, but there was just no way we were winning that game with the way the Commanders were playing, the talent and the chemistry that offense has right now, off the charts. They hit the over. Basically all on one side. Commanders damn near did it by themselves. And I will say, I think my keys to the W ended up being pretty accurate here on both ends. For the Commanders, I said it was really important for them to get the play action going. be able to run the ball with Jaden and Brian Robinson, pick on Sean Murphy Bunting with Scary Terry. All those things were basically like the definition of how we got our booties handed to us. Terry McLaurin was open on crucial third downs all day, caught a touchdown. Brian Robinson had over 100 and a touchdown. They ran it down our throats. Jaden Daniels was dynamic. And then on the other side, what I said the Cardinals needed to do, they didn't do, and it showed up. Kyler needed to take what the defense was giving him, not force anything, hit the open receivers. Time and time again, I felt like he was forcing it when he didn't need to. And that showed up in the stat sheet. That showed up in our offense never really getting into a rhythm. The one little check mark that we had was that our offense did establish the run. James Conner looked great. He is somehow just stays a consistent top 12 running back more than he's not a top 12 running back. That being said, there was a lot of yardage in garbage time. I don't think it really made a big difference because the second half of my statement there was you got to establish the run and stop the run. And they could not stop a nosebleed on Sunday. Commanders ran all over them. And because of that, Cardinals couldn't stay in front of the chains on either side of the ball. Just didn't play any complimentary football. This was just all Washington. And I'll have specific takeaways as to why I think it really got away from them early on. Some real positives I think that I saw, and some real negatives, of course. But overall, just don't love to see half a stadium of Commanders fans and Jaden Daniels returning to AZ and absolutely lighting it up for a lot of Sun Devil faithful. That's why I picked his little forks up picture right there back in his ASU days. That's all I have to say about that one for now, because I will have plenty more in the Cards Corner. Reg, what do you got on this?
I mean, I'll tell you what, I already put a bet on him to win MVP at plus 5,000 odds. I think it's already lower. You're seeing maybe, I think I saw like 2,500 elsewhere, 3,300 on I think Bet Rivers. But yeah, I put a good slump of money right there on plus 5,000. I believe it was FanDuel. But even if he doesn't win it, he's definitely going to keep continuing to make a run here. Odds will shorten. Probably can cash that out. But yeah, the dude was great. Incredibly efficient. I mean, you'll probably break this down more, but 26 of 30 for 233, touchdown and interception, in a resulting stat of plus 11.8 completion percentage over expected. This is awesome stat. He's generated a plus 8.7 CPOE, completion percentage over expected. This season, the highest by a qualified rookie through 4 weeks since Dak Prescott, 2016, 8 years ago.
Yeah, and I got some more stats in a bit about some of the elite company that he is in, but you're absolutely right. He's playing out of his mind right now.
I think this one's even more disgusting, brother. You might have catched this. You might have even put this already, but I wanted to break it down. Like, dating back to the final minute of week 2, Daniels completed 35 straight passes under 15 air yards, going 100 minutes and 5 seconds between incompletions. Like, that's just perfect football, you could say.
100%. That's why I'm doing the film breakdown on him. I have a lot more. I'd love to leave that where it's at. Got a lot more to unpack from him. But yeah,
you got it.
Dude's special, 100%. I think some of the stats you brought up I had written down too. He's nuts. He's crazy. The hype is real. Commanders should be very, very happy with how much Cliff is cooking right now. That was the Sunday early/late window. Those are all the non-primetime games for the weekend. So we'll plow through real quick here. Our Sunday night matchup, which was the Derrick Henry show, man, showed up, showed out. Anybody that was having any questions about him being, vultured by Lamar Jackson, I think those have been answered through 4 weeks. If anything, I think he's taken out some of Lamar's ceiling rushing. But yeah, another dude just playing out of his mind right now. Seems like he's on a bit of a revenge tour. Insane that the Titans were like, yeah, Mike Vrabel, you can leave the building. We don't need you. Oh yeah, AJ Brown, nah, he couldn't help us out. Derrick Henry, arguably greatest running back in franchise history. Let him walk too. Not a great time to be a Titans fan. Great time to be a Ravens fan. I think they're really figuring it out. I think from the beginning of the season, my main thing I was highlighting about this Ravens team is when the games matter in December through February, nobody, and I mean nobody in the NFL is going to want to line up against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry at the goal line. And like ultimately, that's just going to be their trump card over everything for a while. So I'm going to keep bringing that up until somebody shows a way to effectively stop them. Because as of right now, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they're stopping themselves a lot more than anybody else is.
They have, well, of course, you could go back to that last play, Isaiah Likely, one shoe size smaller, they're 3-1. Yeah, I think to go back to that, it's funny, I broke down a stat last week. I was saying how the Buffalo Bills' only weakness is the Baltimore, I mean, not the Baltimore, it's just the run game. And I still picked them to win. It's funny. I remember you were like, oh, and so you're just going to pick them. And I'm like, yep. I guess I'm just so square, and I'm kind of like emotionally attached to Josh Allen. I don't know what. It's just so funny. This is things that happen sometimes.
Bills
You
Mafia, you've been a diehard fan
Bills
since day
Mafia.
one, right?
Sometimes you just break your statistics and you just go with your heart. And obviously, it was very wrong here. Derrick Henry, right? He's just him. He actually when he faced the light box, right? He went he faced the light box on about half his carries, 9 of 24, and totaled 110 yards and a touchdown. His most of his career, actually, in such sort of what's it called, circumstances. But he got, by the way, 199 total yards. It's crazy. I bet a lot of people were putting in. I mean, myself, I was putting in at the time after his first his first crazy run. I put in a bet for him to get 200 yards that game at like plus 700 odds or whatever. But of his 199 total rushing yards, 139 came before contact. His most since 2017, actually. And he had a higher yards per carry outside the tackles at 13.3, where he was getting, 13 carries, 173 yards, and a touchdown. But between the tackles, he's getting only 2.4 per carry. So it seems like that's probably the way to play him, is like you force him to go in, you stack the box, and you pray that you stop him. But other than that, I think that might just be the formula, Marcus.
I'd be curious to look into it at some point, but I wonder if any of those yards per carry between the tackles are also being kind of altered by the fact that I'm sure when they're getting down to the 2-3 yard line, it's just Derrick Henry up the middle. So that'll probably impact the yards per carry. I don't know how many goal line opportunities he's gotten, but curious to see if that shows even more how dominant he has been. But yeah, well, this Ravens team is going to be fun to watch. It's not going to be the last time we're talking about them for sure. One of the last times we're talking about the Titans or Dolphins in a meaningful game might be this one. They both got a Monday night game. There was no Tua, no Skylar Thompson either. It was Snoop Huntley for the Dolphins. For the Tennessee Titans, Will Levis threw another bad interception. Was his NFL league leading 7th turnover, if I'm not mistaken, through 4 games. And yeah, I believe 2 plays later, he scrambled to the right and he had an injury. And Mason Rudolph was in for the rest of the game. And Will Levis, to his credit, saw him on the rest of the sideline, gassing up his teammates, firing them up. He wasn't like just sulking in it. But still something to monitor. Titans are just, man, my takeaway going into this year was they spent just enough money to not be bad, but I didn't know where they were going to be. They might still be bad on top of that. Pollard has looked decent from what I've seen. Spears hasn't taken the jump that they thought. D-Hop might be on the market all of a sudden. That passing game is very lackluster at best. Tough place to be if you are the Titans, but they pull off a much needed win here. You could see almost like the sense of relief from this squad, like when they got the monkey off their back, getting that first dub. And for the Dolphins, my main question is just where do they go from here? They got the playmakers. I know you said maybe like somebody like Tyreek Hill becomes available in a trade. I know they obviously internally still believe they have the roster to compete for the playoffs. Tua wants to be back when he's eligible by week 8. No idea how realistic that actually is, but I don't know. If you're the Finns, you have to figure out something long term if you're trying to compete this year, because Tyler Huntley, unfortunately, most likely is not that. Maybe Ryan Tannehill, bring him back. I don't know. This was the Ryan Tannehill Bowl, by the way, the Titans
Right.
and Finns. Yeah, man. Any thoughts on this snooze fest of a game? The other Monday night we'll get
Uh,
into is a lot better.
I I mean, I just think the Titans are just a bunch of losers. Genuinely, like I think we would see a different storyline. We would see a different team if they just held on week 1 against the Bears. They win that game, they got confidence, they start rolling and they win and win and win and win. Maybe Will Levis doesn't turn the ball over as much. It's just the attitude. I think it's the mentality probably you got in the locker room. You got a bunch of losers, a bunch of losing mindsets. I'm sorry, D Hop, but they got to just start changing the mindset. I feel like this is a big thing where it's like if you lose games, you feel like you're a loser. And the thing is, when you look on the other side, maybe like in Cincinnati, a lot of the time, right in the first 2-3 weeks, they're like losing games or going 1-2, 0-3, whatever it is. They realize they're like, wait a minute, we're a bunch of winners. Joe Burrow, he's won a championship before, not the best one, not the top one, but LSU, shout out LSU. Um, I'm pretty sure they got a pretty good winning mindset, a good culture there. In Tennessee, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, you said it yourself. They lost out on an AJ Brown. They lost out on a Derrick Henry. They're just losers. But on the other side, Miami. Yeah, it's funny. You could say, what's up with the coach, Mike McDaniels, only winning with Tua. Huntley it's questionable how he got a Pro Bowl, but I'd say the highlight of this game, of course, the Titans, their run defense was able to stop the Dolphins' designed run game. Even though that was kind of like all that they had. But yeah, they limited the ball carriers to 72 yards on 26 designed runs, minus 43 rushing yards over expected, 7th lowest by a defense in this game. I mean, they got the job done. Of course, yeah, like you said, they're happy, but screw this game, man. This game was fucking boring at one point. Like I don't even know how they got to 31 points, but because I remember it was like 6-3 or 9-3 at one point. It's disgusting how they did this.
Yeah, I'm done even having this on my screen.
Yeah,
Let's move on. Let's go to the good Monday night game. Lions, Seahawks. We talked about it before. First 3 games or last 3 games leading into this one, 80.3 points per game combined between the two squads. Knew it was going to be a shootout. Ended up being just that. Lions looked insane. Jared Goff, perfect game, 18 of 18, had a receiving touchdown. Don't think a lot of people had that on their bingo. Him and Amon-Ra took turns throwing touchdowns to each other. Also saw it was kind of funny, but Dan Campbell ended up giving 2 game balls away, and neither were to Jared Goff. And he got to the press conference afterwards, saw that he had a perfect game, and immediately was like, "Oh snap!" Like I knew he was good. I didn't know he was perfect. He definitely should have gotten a game ball there, but I think Detroit fans chanting his name will probably do just as well. Seahawks, you said it, I think, in the 2-minute warning or in the 2-minute drill. they showed me something, even in a loss here. That offense is legit. I think Geno Smith is playing some really high level football right now. It's like he's not just a meme. He's a legit starting quarterback in the NFL. It was cool to see them rise to this moment, not like kind of not show up in this big primetime game. Saw DK Metcalf dapping up Calvin Johnson pregame. Only person in the world that could probably make DK look like a small human being. It was just fun. It was a good football game. And back-to-back weeks, it's made me really happy that we have this 2 Monday Night Football format because there's been a snoozer both weeks now, and then there's been a genuinely good game on the back end, which has been really nice. Biggest takeaways, though, put them right here. Lions, this is their conference to lose. They are here. They look a lot better than the, Niners, Packers, other teams that people kind of had in that same boat. Let's see. Seahawks, the division is still funky. They're alone in first place, but they still got a ton of division games. In fact, they might be the only NFC West team that hasn't played a divisional matchup yet. So they have 6 games still against some legit teams in our division that I think will more shape them up to be what is, I don't know. I think we'll know a lot more about this team once they get through that gauntlet, is basically what I'm trying to say. Any takeaways on this banger of a Monday night game, Reg?
Bald Kenneth Walker III is really good at football. Recovered from that oblique problem injury.
Also
really good at football. I don't know if you.
Also look like 8 years older with that shaved head.
Yeah. I saw a tweet. Someone put AP's face on him, and I was like, "Holy shit! Is that Walker or is that AP?" I'm confused. Yeah, he's really good at football. He 3 touchdowns there. Love that. Funny, Killian, if you hear me, it's funny how we almost made a trade for that guy. I love that guy. Too bad for me, but it's okay. What else? Tell me, I'll tell you. Geno Smith was actually at his best against the Lions in zone coverage, finishing 30 of 36 for 302 yards against the zone. Compared to that, in man coverage, he was throwing 8 for 20 for 93 yards. So when he's reading the zone, he's just cooking. But when you got it's a little tough for him, but still a great game from him overall. Didn't find the W, sucks, but you're still 3-1. You're still top of the division. Feels good still. But yeah, Kenneth Walker, 12 rushes, 80 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6.7 yards per carry. Come on, man. Like, this guy's bald and he's a man.
Absolute. Dude, he's just a dog. He's a dog. He's a Spartan dog, if I might add. I knew he was going to be a baller when he started breaking out like 80-yard runs every other week at MSU. We talked about this game being a measuring stick before this week, Reg, and I think this shows the Seahawks offense is there to compete. They got to step it up a little bit on defense, but this is one of those few teams that you don't think the world is burning and is upside down if your defense gives up 42 points against this current version of the Lions, especially when Jared Goff is literally perfect through the game. Like, you can't really ask for much more.
Yeah, it's just everywhere. Everyone was scoring on the team, like J-Mo, him, Goff, Amon-Ra, Gibbs.
David Montgomery had one run that was like
insane.
Beastquake, dude, like looking Beastquake-esque, might I say.
Shed off like 3 different tacklers. It was disgusting. That guy's can't believe they the Bears let him walk, man. Like, or traded him. It's just the Bears. I love the Bears. Go Bears.
It's brutal, man. It's kind of crazy to see the success. It's still early with Aaron Jones in Minnesota, but 2 interdivision transactions there have really paid off for the other squad. All that being said, that is the conclusion of our pick'ems for the week. We got a Cards Corner coming at you fast. May I hop right into this, Reg? You cool with that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me get the 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 bad stuff out of the way. Okay. This is a bad performance by the Arizona Cardinals. The Washington Commanders came into State Farm Stadium and mollywopped Arizona. I highlighted a lot of things that they needed to do to win this game, as in the Cardinals. They did not do most of those things. I highlighted a lot of things that would lean this game towards Washington. They were able to do a lot of those things successfully. I'm not an NFL coach, so I can't tell you like what game plan was better, but the product I saw on the field was a Washington team that was a lot more prepared, had a lot more depth, had a lot more fight in them. It was probably the worst performance by the team that I've seen in the Jonathan Gannon era so far. That's tough to say. I don't love to hear that, especially 2 weeks removed from arguably the best one. Now, I want to say some Cardinal fans need to pipe down because after Kyler had like the greatest historical performance in Cardinals history for the quarterback 2 weeks ago, we already got people calling for his job, which is insane. Just sit down, take a walk, take a breath. He hasn't been good the last 2 weeks. That is objectively true, but he is not. His job is not and should not be in jeopardy unless this continues all season long. And if it does, yeah, we got a problem on our hands, and I'll talk about that at some point, but we're not there just yet. We are currently in week 4/5, transitioning into week 5, and we got our asses handed to us this week. So let's break that down real quick. Final score was 42-14 in favor of Washington. I have a bit of a little game recap here, just some notes, some of the trends that people might not have seen if they hadn't watched this game closely. Obviously, I was on field level. This was another home game, but I didn't get to watch a ton of the actual football being played. So I went back, watched this in full, and these are just some of the notes that I came up with in rewatching it. So entering this game, the Cardinals offense was really high powered, obviously. We knew that. In fact, they were averaging 27 points per game entering this week. And in entering the Detroit game, they were actually averaging 34.5 points per game, which was up there top 3 in the league, if not number 1. Ended up finishing with a combined 27 points. So basically matching their season total over 2 games in that Detroit and Washington back-to-back homestand. Totally unacceptable, of course. But watching that game back, I felt like we left a ton of meat on the bone in the first half, especially on offense. The team started 0 of 4 on third down. There was a 4th and 1 I would have liked to see them go for, even a 4th and 9 I would have liked to see them go for. That Dan Campbell ended up being aggressive. They ended up picking it up, or not Dan Campbell, I'm thinking of the Detroit game now. Cliff Kingsbury ended up being aggressive when the roles were reversed for Washington, and they were able to pick up some crucial 4th downs that the Cardinals just weren't able to do. We did convert 1 4th down that I'll talk about in a little bit. That was nice. But outside of that, really stagnant on crucial downs. 0 for 4 to start on third down. Finished the game. I don't remember the exact stat, but it was just as bad overall. And for Kyler Murray, he finished with only 142 passing yards. Totally unacceptable. And again, something that I highlighted in that marquee matchup segment, that the way that he was going to go up against this Washington secondary was going to be one of the key matchups to watch here. And that Washington secondary had a lot of holes through week 3. They did not show them in week 4. Played probably their most complete game of the season. I selfishly think a lot of that has to do with some poor execution on the Cardinals' end. But it was also an undeniably good game by that young Washington secondary. Something I thought really concerning, a trend that I have started to notice in this new look Cardinals offense. He had 5+ carries in week 1 through 3, which he was pretty successful translating that into yards. I think he was averaging over 50 yards per game entering this one. And he only had 1 attempt in this entire game. And it came in the first half very early, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a very concerning trend / stat for the Cardinals when they're not getting Kyler out and moving. We are 0-14-1. Never won a game in 15 starts for Kyler Murray when he has 4 or less carries. And I am not sure what the offense is seeing in the meeting rooms here in this regime, but they are trying to make him more of a pocket passer, which I think he has the arm talent to be that. But when he is also simultaneously one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the league with his legs, it is a trend that I'm not liking the sound of. And I hope that corrects itself. I hope Drew Petzing gets a little more confidence in his scheme, and that kind of goes away. Um, but I still think we need to get Kyler out of the pocket, moving in the field, keep the defense honest, which should only hopefully open things up for the rest of our passing game, especially right now when teams are playing a ton of man on us, and we need to punish them for that. We have the talent, receiver-wise, to go over top, to take some shots, hit Marvin on a post route like we did in week 2 against Los Angeles. We just haven't had those tendencies that have brought those plays like before us up to this point. So again, not liking it because they're throwing the ball beyond the sticks a ton on first and second down, but then getting ultra conservative on third down. I'm seeing a lot of screen passes, a lot of bubble screens, some very Cliff Kingsbury-esque stuff that I thought we were done with. That Cliff, even in this new version of the Washington offense, has really kind of developed into his own style. It just felt really inconsistent, and like we were attacking almost the wrong areas of the field at the wrong time. And again, that's without being in the meeting rooms. That's without being a coach that has all the intel that they do. And I will say, the Cardinals defense inevitably got lit up. They still gave up 42 points here, but I was pleasantly surprised watching them in the first half. We actually had 2 crucial stops at one point that the offense did nothing with. So first, even when Washington was cooking, Garrett Williams makes a filthy interception, one-handed pick. He's a second-year corner for us out of Syracuse. Really, really like his potential. If you can find a clip of it, it is nasty. Goes up, grabs with one hand, kind of tips it to himself. It is Jaden Daniels' first interception of his career, if I'm not mistaken, but I can get fact-checked on that one. And so massive, massive play for the Cardinals defense. Gives us the ball back. At that point, we were down 14-7. Cardinals immediately go 3 and out. Kyler takes a really bad sack, and then there's a screen pass to Greg Dortch on 3rd and 15 that goes nowhere. That was a painful moment when our defense had literally done something that no team had been able to do to Washington in weeks at that point and stopped them cold with momentum. And then the second moment that I wanted to highlight for the defense there was we also made them punt, which is not something that every team has been able to do. In fact, it was the first time Washington had punted since the 4th quarter of week 1, to give you an idea of how much of a juggernaut this Washington offense is right now. So if you're keeping track, a Washington offense that had not been stopped literally once in basically 2 games and some change, had now been stopped basically on back-to-back possessions by the Cardinals defense. And then what do the Cardinals do with that punt that they force? They actually start moving the ball a little bit. They have 3 timeouts, and they're down just 7. It's still 14-7 here. This is right before half with 3 minutes left. Offense moves the chains into Washington territory, and then Kyler takes a really, really bad sack on 4th and 1. And here's where my questions for the play calling tendencies really started to come up. It's a 4th and 1 with the James Conner, who has been cooking all game. He was cooking first half, cooking second half. He had a great game despite the Cardinals offense really struggling. Instead of handing it off on 4th and 1, and instead of just going up the middle behind a offensive line whose strength has been run blocking so far, they do a shotgun pass with Kyler Murray, who can't find a receiver, even though when I was looking at the all-22, it looked like Michael Wilson and James Conner were both open for a first down. Kyler takes a bad, inexcusable sack on 4th and 1. We get nothing out of it. And in fact, with 30-something seconds left, Jaden Daniels marches down the field, kicks a field goal to go up 17-7. And that tiny little moment, I think, really started to make the wind again come out of the sails of the Arizona Cardinals. You could see their body language start to change. They just started playing more antsy, more sloppy. And then what happens right there after they go up 17-7 and Washington comes out in the second half? A brutal pass interception or pass interference, penalty for Sean Murphy-Bunting, the guy who I said the Commanders will probably be picking on pregame. And watching back the all 22 of this play too, I do not think it was a catchable ball. Obviously, I'm not an NFL ref, so I'm not 100% sure about the distinction of when you can call that pass interference or not. But this was for a deep shot that Jaden Daniels took to Noah Brown, where the ball ended up legitimately 10 to 15 yards in front of Noah Brown before he got interfered with. Um, at least from live, looking at the replay, looked like a questionable call. Ends up being a 47-yard penalty when we were down 17-7 already at that point. Puts Washington inside the 10-yard line. And then Jaden Daniels on the very next snap, nasty run design. Their offensive linemen eat up our front seven. Really poor pursuit angles by Sean Murphy Bunting and Mac Wilson, who otherwise had been decent at that point in this game. And suddenly you're down 24-7 at home with an offense that has done nothing and a defense that can't get off the field. So to me, at that point, this game is over. It is 24-7 in the third quarter, and it's not even as close as it mathematically is on the scoreboard. But there's been a couple really bad blows. Like, that's unavoidable. It's undeniable at this point. And then it just starts piling on. The very next offensive possession. So Cardinals down now 24-7, trying to do something. Zach Pascal gets called for a hold. He's a run blocking specialist as a receiver. Basically, the only time he's on the field is when we're running. Very questionable hold. I think it was a hold. Like, it's a bang bang. I wouldn't be surprised if they hadn't called it. But what made me frustrated was it looked identical to a play in the first half on Washington's very first scoring drive, where it was a 3rd and 2, and basically exact same run design. Our corner, Starling Thomas, couldn't be clear. It was as clear as day. It's being held in the exact same way that Zach Pascal ends up holding. Here, the difference is they do not call the one in the first half for the Commanders. Commanders pick up a first down, eventually end up scoring on that drive. Here, they do call it on the Cardinals offense, immediately sets us back. Obviously, that shouldn't be enough to really totally derail a drive, but it's still 1st and 20 all of a sudden. And then what happens the very next play? But devastatingly, right after that, Paris Johnson gets called for a hold. And even the announcer takes a second. I even thought about getting this clip for the episode today. Even the announcer takes a second to say how bad of a call that it was. Because what essentially ended up happening, to boil it down a tiny bit, the defender, the pass rusher, was trying to do a rip move. And just to break it down with hand placement, Paris Johnson already had his hands inside, cleanly blocking as textbook as you can. The rip move is designed to try to get that hand out of there. Defender puts his arm there, slips, hits the ground. Just, again, couldn't be a more perfect block from Paris Johnson. Ref calls a penalty on it, calls it for holding. That puts us at a second. Let me find the exact one. Oh, no. Yeah, still first. 1st and 26, wiping off 20-plus scrimmage yards. And I know that's ticky-tacky. That's not the actual thing that ended up defining the game. But when you have no momentum, and when Washington's getting those same calls in the first half in their favor, that is a brutal, brutal mountain to overcome, especially when you're just not clicking on offense, not clicking as a team in general. So, going all the way back here, in those two identical circumstances, we get 20-ish yards wiped off the field because the first hold, James Conner actually picked up 10-plus yards in a first down. Second hold, Greg Dortch picked up 10-plus yards on a screen pass. So 20 yards of scrimmage wiped off, already down 24-7. The momentum is gone. There is nothing going for this Cardinals team right now. And then, unfortunately, the next time we get the ball back, the drive compounds. I should say, actually, this is before we get the ball back. To finish off that drive that started at 1st and 26, Kyler takes another bad sack. Michael Wilson drops a pass. We end up in a 3rd and 34. Drew Petting draws up a tiny little pathetic screen pass. We're at 4th and 27, down 24-7. And at this point, Cards fans start booing. And for the record, half the stadium was already the opposing team. It was half Commanders fans in the arena at that point. And they love to hear the Cardinal boos because that half of the stadium erupts in cheers. It was like we were at a Commanders home game all of a sudden. this game was over with over half of the third quarter left at that point. Very next possession, Washington converts a 3rd and 13 and a 4th and 1, draining clock. Even has a little moment where Jaden Daniels evades a pass rusher on a 3rd and 8, keeps them within field goal range. They go up 27-7, including that drive. They ended up finishing this game 9 of 12 on 3rd downs and 1 of 1 on 4th. And it was very important for us to keep the ball out of our hands when we were trying to just chip away. The Cardinals get ahead of the chains the next drive, trying to just do some, I don't know, some window dressing at this point. Before Kyler eventually ends up taking a sack on 2nd and 5. It's just getting disastrous at this point. There's a screen wide open to Emari DeMarcado that Kyler underthrows, bringing up a 4th and 12. The biggest highlight of this offense in the second half is on that play. Kyler eventually finds, sticks in the pocket, gets absolutely destroyed as he was getting destroyed most of this game. Delivers a dime on the sideline to Marvin Harrison for a 1st down. That was a nice little moment in the second half, but that was about all that you could manage to take away positive-wise in that second half. James Conner did eventually get home with his only touchdown of the game, making it 27-14, but the Commanders drove right down the field, took off basically the whole first half of the 4th quarter, pardon me. This game, by the time the Cardinals got the ball back, was so over. They even got a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to go up 21. Cardinal fans started leaving in mass after that play. It was all Commanders by the end of the game, something I am sick of. I am just sick of opposing fans taking over this Cardinals stadium, but it's just such a unique thing about this place. It's a destination city. People from all over the country live here, so there just aren't a ton of Cardinal fans. And it's only going to get worse if these losses keep piling up. I'm mortified for this Chicago Bears game, for the record, when the Bears are coming to town. Last I saw, the average ticket price was starting at like $230, which means, translation to me, there's going to be a lot of Bears fans there, because that means Cardinal fans are successfully selling their tickets to all of the snowbirds, as we call them down here. But back to football. Man, the Commanders just ended up doing at the end what they've been doing all game long: pound the rock one more time, add insult to injury. Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson, and then McNichols drive all the way down, basically combined for 100 yards rushing over the next 2 drives by themselves. Get one more touchdown. Why not? This fully the Cliff Kingsbury revenge game at this point. And even Michael Wilson fumbles on our last real competent drive to add final insult to injury. It was a nightmare performance for the Cardinals. A lot of questions will be raised here. To me, it's just an inexcusable performance effort-wise. I think maybe they took a little bit too many moral victories out of that Lions game, because it just didn't look like they were ready to play in this one. And that is concerning, obviously, because that usually is coaching that boils down to. And it's the first time I'd ever seen them come out like that under Jonathan Gannon. So I'm hoping this is a trend that is not here to stay, and this was just a really, really bad game. But I wanted to really quickly break down some of my forecasted marquee matchups here, which I hinted towards in a little bit ago, pardon me. So on offense, I highlighted that the Cardinals needed to exploit their advantage over the Washington secondary. I was looking for Kyler to have a big game. And guess what? Washington won that matchup. It was clear as day. Kyler only finishes with, I believe, 142 passing yards. Very, very tough day for him. Marvin got it going in the first quarter. Offense looked great. We're now, I believe, the only team in the NFL that has scored on their opening drive in all 4 games. So the script to start the year has been terrific, but they just can't make adjustments. They just can't actually finish off a game right now. And obviously, that's a concern when that was the biggest indictment on the Cliff Kingsbury regime by the end of it. But it's not going to be all doom and gloom here. Some standouts for the Cardinals. James Conner, as I said, balled out. 18 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. Also had a reception for 9 yards. Basically was sat out the whole 4th quarter when he'd already had his game. this man's just a stud. He's overcome challenges that a lot of people will never encounter in their life, from Hodgkin's lymphoma in college to being behind Le'Veon Bell as a rookie to carving out an incredible NFL career. He is a set it, forget it running back for fantasy, in my opinion, until he gets slowed down. Brian Robinson, by the way, last of these two marquee matchups, absolutely balled out. They dominated the Cardinals front seven, ran all over them, poor pursuit angles, poor tackling effort. I even saw a lazy tackle by Jalen Thompson on what ended up being a McNichols touchdown. You weren't seeing these things from this Cardinals team under Jonathan Gannon at this point. That's why it's a real eyebrow raiser. But again, as I highlighted, going back to the Cardinals standouts, sweet baby Marvin Harrison Jr. still had another big game. He has now 5 receiving touchdowns on the season. He's going to get to double digits by the end of this year. Absolute problem. We still have the foundation. We just got to keep working through it. I think we got to build more chemistry, obviously, at this point. I think the lack of a preseason has really showed up this year, for better or for worse. And then Garrett Williams, who I already shouted out for that sick interception. I do believe it was the first of Jaden Daniels' career, so cool to have that. But obviously one of the very, very few highlights from this defense on today's game. Only generated 1 sack on the day as well. If that even, that might have been just a tackle for loss now that I'm thinking about it. But for Washington, it was a Jaden Daniels show. 26 of 30, 233 yards, pardon me, a tutty, and then also 8 carries, 47 yards, and another one. Brian Robinson ran all over us, already highlighted that. But Jeremy McNichols also stepped into that Austin Eckler role and did not skip a beat. 8 carries, 68 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 reception, and 6 yards on top of that. He probably could have had more. He was running at will with this Cardinals defense. Scary Terry had a tutty, 52 yards, but felt like he was dominating a lot more than that. He was found by Jaden Daniels very often on crucial third downs. Just moved the chains all game long. And then the Washington front seven, huge game for them. I just wanted to throw out all the guys that got a statistical stat there, or a sack, pardon me. Jonathan Allen, Dorrance Armstrong, Deron Payne, Bobby Wagner, former Cardinals killer, still Cardinals killer, evidently, and Frankie Louvu combining for 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a whole lot of quarterback pressures. The trenches were dominated by Washington on both sides of the football, and that is how we keep talking about this ad nauseum, Reggie. That is how you're going to win in this modern NFL, and the Washington Commanders just did it better. And Jaden Daniels was a large part of that. Incredibly efficient. I already highlighted his passing numbers there. And I think Reggie mentioned this stat before too. Plus 11.8% completion percentage over expected. Dude is just not playing like a human right now. Insane. Yeah, highest by a qualified rookie, as you said before, since Dak Prescott in 2016, that season where he broke out and stole Tony Romo's job. Yeah, 100 minutes and 5 seconds between incompletions dating back to the final minute of week 2. He's just playing lights out football, not just for a rookie quarterback, for an NFL quarterback. And then Dorrance Armstrong, who I highlighted, he got home with a sack. He generated 4 pressures on top of that and that sack on just 13 pass rush snaps against Kelvin Beachum, who was the 15-plus year vet. Felt really good about trotting him out. But honestly, he had a rough day protecting Kyler Murray. A couple of those third downs where Kyler had arguably an open receiver and just got swallowed up, it was from the pressure generated on Kelvin Beachum. So don't think we realized how much we'd be missing Jonah Williams, the offseason addition, this early, but boy, we could use him back. Even Jackson Barton in that Lions game held up really, really well against Aiden Hutchinson. So I know the Cardinals would just genuinely and generally need some depth in the trenches on both sides, for the record, because Darius Robinson has been sorely missed, our other first-round pick, who is eligible to return from IR and play his first snaps of the season as of this week. That is the 6'5", 300-plus pound defensive lineman slash defensive end that's going to fit right into our biggest weakness right now as a roster. So again, couldn't get him back sooner. The last thing I wanted to say right here while we were on the subject, just talking about Jaden Daniels and how special that kid is here. I'm really excited to bring back our film segment this week. It's not going to be in this episode. We got plenty of content packed up in this one for you, but we are looking to get that recorded by the next stream that we do. Just want to make sure that the film actually comes across clean. That's kind of an important part of a film breakdown. So I want to make sure you can see all the same things that I saw. But in going back and watching this film for Jaden Daniels, man, he was just making tough throw after tough throw. Even his interception that he had, that I just gassed up Garrett Williams for making a really nice individual effort play, was a really good read by him. It was just a bad throw. If he had been able to sneak that one in there, he would have had Scary Terry for like a 20+ yard gain. Ended up going the other way. But when you're getting that ticky-tacky about a rookie right now, you know the level of talent that he's displaying, and he's done just that. In fact, I have it here on the screen right here. Insane company that this man is in right now, and this offense is in. Washington has scored on 68% of its drives this season, which is the highest rate through 4 games for any team since at least 2000. And you might recognize some of the teams that are within that range. I don't know. Maybe, the Aaron Rodgers Green Bay Packers, where he was an MVP winner, and Devontae Adams led the league in touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have the Patriots, who they won some games, both 2015 and 2007, which was one of the greatest offenses of all time with Randy Moss there. And then the 2017 Rams, who were also a gauntlet. That was the Todd Gurley, Jared Goff. Man, that offense was insane. So you're talking about historically good offenses that Commanders are ranked up there with right now. And individually, you just could not ask for Jaden Daniels to be playing at a higher level right now. So yeah, I'm excited to do this film breakdown. It's not going to be right now, but as you can see by the screen, that boy good. So we are going to make sure to do a real full spotlight on him. I also got another spotlight lined up on a certain NFC South quarterback that we may have talked about already today. All that being said, though, that's going to bring me to the conclusion of my long-winded cards segment. And I see green here, Reg, which I think means it's time to talk about some betting. Am I right?
I mean, you see green, I see green too. Talking about that guy, Jaden Daniels. Again, I put $100 on him to win at plus 5,000 to win the MVP. That is, feels good there. I mean, you broke it down there. I love what I'm seeing. Love the stats. Love that he's in good company. Of course, it's gonna be tough to see if there is regression or not, but we'll see. Right now, here what we got. I mean, the idea was there. It's the idea is there. Pat Surtain had Wilson. Wilson's not looking like the alpha, or the clear-cut alpha, rather. When you compare maybe like a Nico Collins and the Texans, Rodgers and Lazard, again, you might even see Adams there coming in. That'd be amazing. But yeah, no hit here, no touchdowns, no nothing, no fun here. Sucks, but it is what it is. It's a donation. It's a parlay. It's just to keep the books thinking that I'm a little square as I go ahead and take, arbitrage bets here and there.
Just being a good boy, just falling in line.
Just falling in line, being square here and there, everywhere. But yeah, yeah, I mean, it's a donation. I'm unlucky, I guess.
In your defense, the targets were there, just not the red zone ones, and not the. He didn't hit home, but Aaron Rodgers was looking for him.
I remember too. I mean, Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show saying how is this week it just wasn't the offense is weak. I mean, they had like 5 false starts.
Yeah.
They were talking about the cadence and how they just couldn't get it together properly this week. And it's funny too. He was bringing out the stats himself. So it was like this was just an anomaly of a week where whether it was on 1 or 2, the offensive line, whoever, was just getting offsides. Like
Yeah.
the first couple weeks, they were more than 5. I think they had only. I mean, he said it himself, maybe 1 false start.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it'll pan out. It'll figure it out. And I would probably put this parlay if they were to play fucking the Commanders or someone crazy as well. So this is probably something to keep in the save list. But shit, if it hits, you're paid plus whatever it is. But yeah.
Yeah, the Lazard interest is a real thing at the very least.
Yeah, bro, trade him to me, man.
We'll see,
We'll
man.
talk maybe one day.
I'm playing some roster chess right now, so we'll see if I even can. But yeah, I think, like you said, swing and a miss, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I'm gonna give you the reins for this one as I go take a quick bathroom break.
Yeah, another swing and a miss here. I mean, it's just boo-hoo, I guess. I mean, I thought, made sense to me. LA gave up a lot to the Niners, but of course, the Niners aren't Chicago, or the Chicago Bears aren't the Niners, right? And I mean, Juwan Jennings is not, or rather, Roma Dunze is not Juwan Jennings. Neither is DJ Moore. But I mean, he did find Moore in the end zone on a pretty pass to end that game there. It made sense to me. I mean, you had LA coming off a very tiresome game to come back and beat the Niners like that. I thought, maybe Caleb breaks out here, slaps him up, but I mean, he still did get the win. He did not get 3 passing touchdowns. He did not get 325 passing yards. I don't remember if Kyron got in. I know Rome didn't get in and Cole didn't get in. It's just another donation. Keep the account healthy. Keep that account looking square. Again, it's okay. Like, if I can find bets where I'm for sure winning, like I gave out whenever, I think maybe week 2 or week 1, getting that Derek Carr one when he's pretty much guaranteed to get 200 yards at plus 1,500. I'm more than okay giving a little bit back here and there. Like I, of course, am thinking more and more now, like, I just got to keep money in my Caesars account, because if I had 1,000 in that account, we're smashing that line, and we are going back. We are just going to go to Vegas with that money.
What did I miss? We're getting rich.
No, I'm just talking about how this was a miss, and it is what it is, because, if we hit another sort of Derek Carr line that we had, that I showed you, 2-ish weeks ago, for 1 out of every 10 weeks, we are more than happy giving donations to look like a square better.
Just doing the hard work, doing your due diligence to get paid down the road. Got another slide for you here, Reg.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas always makes the call. I think overall, yep, right down here, bottom left, underdogs 5.5 or more points. Now 17-4-1 against the spread this week. Sad measly 3-2-1 against the spread. Maybe we're starting to finally see the spread looking more so right, making more sense. We could see the numbers finally regress more and make more sense. Maybe we could see a lot more blowouts as Vegas predicts or sets the lines as. But yeah, until then, I'm still on the dogs, looking to follow dogs. Jets -7.5 didn't get there. Houston -6 didn't get there. Of course, San Francisco got there -10. I mean, they destroyed them. But even KC didn't get there at -7.5.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start with a lot of these, but I think the analysis you're providing on a weekly basis is making me a lot more informed. Uh, I can't use the word better, but you know what I mean. One day down the road, I can't wait to use all this knowledge, Reg. Um,
Yeah, look forward to next episode. I'll give you some picks. I have maybe some picks for Thursday night, but we'll get into that eventually.
yeah, dude, I'll throw it over to you when we get there. And yeah, if you have anything to highlight there, by all means. Um, before we get there, though, we have another one of our awesome SFL show co-hosts joining us, fresh off of a SKOL segment last week. We got Mr. Kyle Burgess back in the building one more time. I'm going to stop presenting here for a second, just to give you the floor. Welcome in.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
Being back.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you for having a good football team that we can talk about here. Because the Vikings are certainly that, my friend. Before I throw the slides back up here, is there anything top of mind and anything you want to tell the people here today?
I mean, right off the bat, looking ahead to this season, this schedule specifically, finishing 7-10 last year, knowing we were going to have an easier schedule, but the front half of this schedule is definitely the harder part. Preseason outlook for teams like the Niners, the Texans, the Packers, even the Jets, who we got coming up this week. I think in hopes of being competitive, Vikings fans and I think even the organization would have been happy with 3-2 in the first 5 weeks, even 2-3 if we looked feisty, looked competitive. So being 4-0 and going into this week 5 confident in another win, hopefully against this Jets team that does not look like it the preseason outlook. Feels good. It feels good, and it's this was supposed to be, at least from the outside perspective, a transition year with rookie quarterback JJ McCarthy. A lot of speculation in camp. I might touch on later. Before JJ got hurt, people were saying he might start, which I think in the Vikings organization, it was always going to be Darnold at least week 1. But the fact that in camp, he was competing for this job, really, and looked as good in this system as Darnold did in camp, which obviously a rookie quarterback probably isn't going to look as comfortable as a 6-year vet, even if it's Sam Darnold, you know what I mean? But, trying to shift perspective into this being a year where we can actually make some noise is exciting. So
I think that last thing you said is a really good point. I think a lot of people tried to take McCarthy and Darnold playing at a similar level in the offseason and kind of almost spin that in the negative way as to like, look how sorry that quarterback position is. Like hindsight's 2020, but now we're like, okay, if he can look as good as Darnold can in this system eventually, like that is a beautiful position to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I'm going to give the floor over to you, Kyle. It is officially SKOL season. So take it away, our resident Vikes insider.
Let's dig in.
Let's dig in, man. All yours.
Vikings improved to 4-0, which I already touched on our feelings about that as an organization, as a fan base. And we touched on it a bit in our previous SKOL segment, kind of the additions in the offseason, and how, from a front office standpoint, this team has been brought together. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit more. So this offseason, we made the decision to say goodbye to Kirko Chains, which I think for a lot of fans was an easy goodbye. But, he was arguably lower half of the top 10 quarterback for a lot of his years in the Vikings. And last year before he got hurt was playing like damn near MVP candidate. but that's $40 to $50 million a year. So let me break down where that money went this year. Kamu Grugier-Hill. Anyone heard of that name? So I think he's going into his 9th year, drafted by the Patriots when Brian Flores was there. This is his first year. He signed a 1-year, $1 million contract with the Vikings, outside linebacker, edge guy. And due to some injuries, he's got an opportunity to play. I mean, this is a guy that his name didn't even really get brought up in training camp, but this past week and the week before is piling up tackles, breaking up passes, and is making a real impact. So that's $1 million. Andrew Van Ginkel, who's been a media darling for his name and his hair and his pick six.
It looks like he was born to be a Viking, for the record.
Yeah, it's like him and TJ Hawkinson, who we'll get to, are like basically, and Blake Brandel, who you see there at the bottom of your screen. Andrew Van Ginkel signed a 2-year, $20 million deal. Also a Flores guy from the Dolphins. So there's a trend here. Brian Flores bringing in guys that he knows can do the things he wants to have happen in this scheme. So we're up to 11. Blake Cashman was brought in from the Texans. Also been an immediate impact guy, making $8 million this year, but was signed to a 3-year, $24 million deal. So long-term contract. We're up to 19. Jonathan Grenard signed a 4-year. I don't know the exact number. I think it's like low $70 million deal. So that's around 17 million, 18 million this year. So we're up to like 36. And all of these players are immediate impact guys. Cannot stress that enough. Like, without these players, this scheme does not work the way it does. We are not leading the league in pressure, in sack rate. I think I don't know after this week, but we're like top 3 or top 4 in interceptions, pass deflections. And then the last minute signing of Stephon Gilmore, which was kind of teased through training camp. A lot of people knew that was coming. A 1-year, $10 million deal. And I think the Stephon Gilmore signing should have been a little breadcrumb, a little insight into the mindset of this organization, which obviously going into every year, the Vikings don't like to tank, They don't like to be bad, especially ownership. They have always endorsed being a middling 500 team over being bad to be good, which is a strategy that's worked a lot in the NFL and in sports in general, even more so in other sports. But the Gilmore signing should have been an indication like, oh, they think they're going to win. You're spending $10 million on a guy who's towards the end of his career, who can still ball. He balled in Dallas. And obviously the cornerback room went through a lot of struggles this offseason, obviously with the death of their 3rd-round pick, Kyrie Jackson, and guys like Andrew Booth Jr., Lewis Seen, high draft picks in previous years that just didn't pan out, just weren't very good. So that's 45-ish, $46 million. 5 players who are immediate impact defensive guys who are one of the main reasons why, at least this defense, but also this team is as successful as it is. But let's break down this game real quick. This was a tale of 2 halves, 2 very different halves of football. Had me down here in my basement with my Jordan Addison jersey, hooting and hollering. Just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. The offense came out swinging, bringing back Addison and having another weapon is crucial because Darnold's been playing well, and it's only been 2 games without Jordan Addison. But when you have a guy like Jefferson, when there isn't another threat, teams can really just send 2 and a lot of times 3 guys onto him to cover him, which is insane. And obviously that opens up stuff for guys like Jalen Naylor, who we talked about last week, to step up. But Jordan Addison's a different level of receiver than Jalen Naylor. And you saw it right away. That first touchdown, there was, I think, almost 3 high safeties. There was a middle safety that, with Jefferson and Naylor on the left side of the field, Addison on the right, you saw immediately, as soon as the play broke, the middle safety shaded over to Jefferson, who was running a post. And Addison just makes one stutter move, one-on-one. Donald hits him, drops it right in the bucket. So this offense really isn't even at its full potential yet. And we'll get to in a bit another weapon that is on its way. And then another aspect of this offense that is different this year is the run and the screen game, especially. Last year with Alexander Madison, who was abysmal, one of the worst starting running backs in the league, we touched on, yards per carry numbers compared to Aaron Jones and how this offensive line is playing really well this year, but if you don't have Aaron Jones, the running game is not going to be what it is right now. And the screen game, the Vikings were one of the, they could not run or complete a screen play like last year for the life of them. And it was so frustrating because, when you get your running game going, you start to loosen it up and loosen up the passing game with play action. Like, the screen game can really come in clutch for when you have a decent O-line who can pull and a quarterback who's mobile enough to get out of the way and make that throw. Like, those are big chunk plays. Aaron Jones, phenomenal receiving back. I mean, they were trying to hit him running like go routes yesterday at the end of the game, which he can catch, but he had a monster day, like over 90 rushing yards, over 40 receiving yards. But that just really balances out this offense, and you saw that especially in the first half. And then the Packers choosing to start Jordan Love against this defense, questionable decision. He looked good in the second half once he got his legs underneath him, but coming back earlier from this injury than a lot of people expected him to, he looked pretty stiff in that first half. 3 interceptions on the game, 2 in that first half, only 1 sack on the game from the defense, but he was getting hurried and pressured all damn day. And defense took advantage. The other note in the first half, Packers have a kicking problem. They ran out, I believe, as a rookie kicker, missed 2 very makeable kicks. They would have been obviously impactful in this game, a two point game at the end of the game. So, second half was different though, but it really started at the end of the first half with the muffed punt from Jalen Naylor, which it was around the 10-15 yard line. Jalen Naylor, who was in as a backup to Brandon Powell, who got hurt earlier in the game. Brandon Powell, a phenomenal punt receiver. Naylor is not that, and he tried to. I think fans are blaming it on the sun. Looked like the sun was in his eye. And look, catching punts is tough. Receiving punts and kickoffs, it's not as easy as it looks. It's not just like, oh, just stand here and catch the ball. No, you got to track it. You got to make sure you tracked it correctly. Your hands underneath it. You got gunners flying at you.
Yeah, you got to worry about somebody taking your head off and all of
right. Naylor doesn't track it correctly. He tries to catch the punt like a freaking catch. Goes through his hands. Packers get the ball inside the 5 yard line. Touchdown to end the half. Swung a lot of momentum their way. And then to start the second half, we gave them another red zone possession with Sam Darnold fumbling the ball immediately once we get the ball, I think at the 25 or 30, but that fumble was tough, man. I don't want to blame any one person. Looked like he had a decent amount of time. Probably should have felt the pressure and thrown it away or taken the sack. It's just tough play in a tough spot that swung the momentum in their direction even more. And once it was 28-14, I think Flores was getting a little more passive in the defense, which I understand. You're not trying to give up those big, massive 80-yard, 70-yard touchdowns so they can jump the score up so quickly. But, I mean, I think the last touchdown drive of the Packers was 3 plays. 3, obviously, 30-ish yard, middle of the field throws and catches.
But just like stuff that Flores was given to them, basically.
Given to them, and yeah, like 3 high safeties all the way back, just trying to make sure enough clock ran out. And knowing, obviously, it's a 2-possession game. They're going to have to onside kick it. But I think they could have done a better job of trying to take away some of those looks. And Packers storm back. But even as a Vikings fan, there was that moment that I'm like, man, we're going to lose this game, aren't we? And like 28-14, I had that feeling. Like Vikings fans, we're not comfortable with any lead. Minnesota sports fans, I should say, because I'm also a Wolves fan. But
oh man, yeah.
But I did feel a little differently because I'm like, man, this team through 3 weeks has shown that they're not fucking around. And I trusted this coaching staff to adjust enough or not adjust too much, even with the defense being a little more passive and the offense obviously just running a lot, and it was 3 and outs. We punted like 3 times in a row. Yeah, there's never really a doubt in my mind because this team feels different. They're prepared to make some more noise. A couple other quick things as we look ahead. I think we're going to smoke the Jets. I really do. Aaron Rodgers against the Broncos can only put up 9 points. And it looks like there was a lot of miscommunication between him and his receivers. Garrett Wilson, one of the most anticipated wide receivers coming into this year. From a fantasy standpoint, especially, I'm glad I didn't keep him and I chose Jamar Chase, even with all the stuff that's going on with Jamar Chase right now.
You chose wisely there.
Yeah. We also have Ivan Pace Jr., who's been out 3 weeks now, coming back, who was a guy I mentioned last week, another stud linebacker who was undrafted, fined from our GM, Kwesi. TJ Hawkinson, practice window officially open. Our third weapon, maybe our second, over Addison. Because I think, especially when you have both Jefferson and Addison on the field, Hawkinson has a lot more opportunity, especially in targets. He's coming back. Obviously, they're going to slowly bring him in because it's a pretty brutal injury. He's coming off of knee injury. But it's a great spot to come back. He won't be coming back against New York. We have a bye week after that. And then we're hosting the Detroit Lions for our 6th game.
It's been a lot of revenge games this year.
A lot of revenge games. It's probably the perfect time to bring him back. And we're 3-0 in London. So
yeah,
keep it going.
Good day, mate. Oh, wait, kind of Australian right there.
Dude, no, that's awesome, man. Genuinely happy as a secondary Vikes fan. Dope to see everything clicking, everything coming together. And yeah, I mean that Hawkinson thing is definitely not nothing. I feel like last time he was fully healthy, he was like tight end 1 in fantasy. So yeah, the fact that you're not even at full strength yet, I feel like only more exciting times are ahead. Even if it's not just this season, man, you got a well-run franchise. So
listen, back to that first point I was making with Kwesi, like a lot of those guys, obviously Gilmore's on a 1-year deal, but 3 main dudes in the offseason were all on multi-year deals. Obviously, they locked up Jefferson this offseason, which is crucial. I think a lot of that also just had to do with JJ being a great franchise player and not making a stink out of it. When you look around the league and you see CD and Jamar and Ayuk and all these other guys. So
Yeah, man. I think like losing for Minnesota sports, losing Cat and Kirk in a calendar year, that's brutal.
yeah,
But when you got Justin Jefferson and Anthony Edwards as the guys that you got your franchise's hopes in, I think you'll be just fine.
future is bright.
Future is bright, man. That's, I mean, getting me fired up. Fucking SKOL.
Anytime.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, would love to have you. We'll make this a recurring segment. And if, quote unquote, if they ever lose, we'll have to have you back to break down what went wrong and what they can improve on, because
Absolutely.
not a ton of room to improve so far, man. They're showing a lot of good things.
I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming.
But with where that puts us, fellas, do we want to do a quick TNF preview? We do have that slide ready. We could always jump into a little bit of SFL talk like we have here, but I don't want to keep us any longer than we already have. What are we feeling here?
I'm happy to do a little preview, but you guys have been here longer, so it's up to you.
I see a wild killster just popped in the chat too.
Howdy.
You sure did.
Reg, what you thinking?
I'm good with that. Whatever you want, bro.
Bet. And maybe let's do let's fly through that TNF preview, and then maybe I'll just like fly through those few SFL slides I have as well, and you guys can just hit me with some natural thoughts at that point. All right, let's do it then. Let's jump right into it. Next up, we got a game to preview here in the suddenly interesting NFC South. This is going to be really important. This is not going to be the only game that these two teams end up playing with real postseason and division ramifications, but this will be the first one. This will be the first and biggest one on prime time right here. I do see that Bijan is questionable. That's something we will monitor. I think it was a hamstring thing, and that can always be weird. I wanted to highlight real quick here. I'll definitely give him his flowers again in one moment, but Baker Mayfield is QB1 in the SFL right now. Man is absolutely balling out of his mind.
I knew he was doing good. I didn't realize he was QB1.
Dude, I didn't realize he was QB1 until I literally took a screenshot of that graphic right there.
Shut up, Baker, man.
I've also been able to exactly predict when he's going to be good and put him on my bench, so feeling lucky with that.
Yeah, it's
What's the deal this week then?
Yeah.
Them?
Yeah, what's happening this week?
As an owner.
Who's the other? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm rolling with Jaden. Yeah, I don't like Thursday night matchups whatsoever. They always
listen.
Baker.
Top two QBs in the top 5 right now rankings on Killian's team on the Sewer Rats. Who would have thought?
Yeah, and you were one of the last ones to snatch up a QB. I do remember draft night saying, like, making a whole stink out of, I don't know how Jaden Daniels is still on the board with these quarterbacks. And bro, you got a value right there.
So good.
But yeah, so jumping into the whole matchup real quick. We had some keys to victory right here. No real perfect way to go about it, but in terms of division fallout, Tampa Bay is going into this game 3-1, top of the NFC South. Saints and Carolina Panthers have seen better days, but all in all, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this division is a lot more competitive than most people thought so far.
Yeah, I think the emergence of the Saints has been the biggest surprise, but I mean, especially for the first 2 weeks, because they've kind of fell off a little bit. But this Bucs team is tough, dude. They boat raced the Eagles.
Yeah, when they've looked good, they've looked really, really good this season. Were one of you guys going to say something there?
I was just going to say, except for the Broncos, somehow the Broncos got Baker's number and just absolutely dominated them, which I got nothing else to write on that, because John Payton has been hot poo-poo garbage.
Yeah, and Reg and I touched on that a little bit. I think even that's more a testament to that Broncos defense, because they went. It wasn't just Baker. They went and silenced a former MVP and Super Bowl champion Aaron Rodgers just last week too. That defense is legit. Yeah, Baker, when he's not looked good, he's not looked good. But good Baker this year is the best quarterback in the league, at least statistically. Some keys to victory on the Bucs side here. We had obviously protecting Baker when he was harassed, especially that Broncos game, did not go well. I have some interesting numbers on the next slide actually about his success versus the blitz this season. But another thing to monitor, I think, is the Bucky Irving ascension here too. Has looked clear and away like the better actual pure running back in this backfield. I know they like Rachaad White for pass blocking, and he's pretty decent third down back in general. But what are you guys seeing out of this backfield?
Yeah, I've been on Bucky Irving ever since the numbers started appearing, and like not only that, Rachaad White's kind of fighting an injury here and there. I'm with this guy. This guy's kind of good. He knows how to play football. He knows how to run the ball.
Yeah, I think there was a Todd Bowles quote too somewhere where he has objectively earned more snaps. So they're saying that out loud. I know internally they're going to prioritize getting him the ball more. Anything else on the Bucs side here besides, I mean, they have two. At one point, are we going to consider Chris Godwin and Mike Evans one of the greatest receiver duos of all time? Because my goodness, those two dudes are ageless wonders at this point.
Fantasy wise, amazing.
Fantasy wise,
go for it.
No, you go, Killian. I didn't have anything there.
They've been catching passes from Jameson Winston at one point, and they made him look good. So I mean, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback; those two are going to boost your numbers.
Ryan Fitzpatrick had them pushing for a playoff hunt at one point. Like, yeah, they've been quarterback proof. There's some crazy stat about the two of them and how elite they've both been. We know.
Of course, they also had Tom Brady that one year.
Yeah,
that guy.
And that one year they had a Hall of Famer, they go and win the Super Bowl. So like crazy, like legitimately approaching all-time status for these guys. And you could argue if they didn't have each other on the other side of the field, maybe more people talk about them, but also they probably don't have the level of success that they've had. It's just a perfect pairing. Anything else on the Bucs side of the ball, offense or defense, before we move to Falcons?
One last thing. Cade Otton. I think Cade Otton is going to be booming very soon. I think because of the fact that you can clearly see that the two wide receivers are this whole team's offense. Really, it runs through them. I think Cade's going to start getting a lot more opportunities to show up like he did last year towards the end of the year.
He obviously has that chemistry with Baker too, for sure. We're going to say something there, Reg?
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, it starts, as we've said these last couple of weeks, it just starts with the run game, establish the run game, and then you can just slice and dice a defense with your talented wide receivers. Cade Otton, he's pretty good. He knows how to catch a ball. Yeah, I mean, I think the Atlanta defense are in for a night for sure. We could probably transition straight up now to Atlanta, yeah?
Yeah, let's do it. Their defense, while being kind of up and down, especially at the beginning part of the year, like if we go back and reflect, they showed up against the Chiefs, showed up last week without, as we were just talking about, Reds, without an offensive touchdown. They somehow get 26 points on the board and win a game.
Disgusting.
And like, yeah, we kind of thought that going into this year, or at least I'll speak for myself, that, the offense would be the well-oiled machine, and we're going to see how the defense was able to keep them in games, if at all. It's kind of been the other way around for a good chunk of this year. There's a lot of kinks to work out. Obviously, that first week for Atlanta, they've kind of steadily found their identities a little bit more, but even Bijan, I don't think has had quite the year most people anticipated he would have. I think a lot of people thought once Artie Smith was gone, he would be like Christian McCaffrey level usage. Just hasn't been that up to this point. I mean, for Atlanta, you got Ray McLeod out targeting Kyle Pitts to start the year. We were talking about how weird the target situation is in New York. What is going on in Atlanta here? You guys have any thoughts?
As a Vikings fan who's had Kirk Cousins a lot of years in his life, Kirk Cousins will find ways to get people the ball who get open and who I shouldn't say deserve it, but like he's not picky. I don't think he's like deliberately saying like Ray's my guy. Obviously, like chemistry is a big thing. So if he has more chemistry in training camp, like routes and stuff, that's on Ray for like building that chemistry with him. But Kyle Pitts is putting up a bunch of zeros. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins was finding ways to get the ball to a lot of people in Minnesota. Like, I think it says more about Kyle Pitts than Kirk, or maybe it has to do more with schematically what they're trying to get to. But
Yeah, Reggie, and then Kill, and then I have one after that too. So you guys go.
I mean, I want to add on to that. Like Kyle Pitts' only touchdown was the one where he was like literally wide open, like not even like nobody, not even a teammate is around him. So yeah, I think it does talk about Kyle Pitts. What were you gonna say, Kill?
I was gonna say, for all the negative stuff that we've got about Kyle Pitts during this season, he is top 15 at the tight end position.
And see, that's where I would say that says more about the position as a whole, because man, is it tough out here to be a tight end owner. I saw somebody was talking about how like Atlanta just doesn't use him as a tight end, and like we almost need to more compare his production to that of just a big wide receiver. And if that's what he is, the man's a bust. He hasn't shown it yet. He just hasn't shown the game-changing, like game-breaking ability where he was worth a pick in, what was it, number 8 overall? It was top 10, right? It was somewhere
13.
around there. It was 13? Okay. Regardless, if you're going the top half of the NFL draft.
You're right, 8th.
8th? Okay. Even more so. If you are going there as a tight end, you have to be game breaking, something that like the defenses have to scheme around, and that's just not what Kyle Pitts has been. It's tough, man. Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking Brock Bowers, 13th, who is currently top 3 tight end. So yeah, there's quite a disparity there between Kyle Pitts and Brock Bowers. Some recent high tight end drafts, and those two stand out, and the disparity is just miles wide.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna get fully to the point of a running back where we just might never see a first round running back again, but tight ends are gonna start creeping into that discussion. If you think about the best tight ends in the entire league right now, I mean, Travis Kelce was not a top 20 pick. Mark Andrews, not a top 20 pick. And although he's not, I know he's questionably even a tight end right now. Well, that's what he's listed as. And it's brutal. It's brutal out here. But game wise, do we want to shift into maybe some picks here? Or do we have anything else we want to say about the game?
I got one last thing. Matthew Judon is looking like a defensive player of the year candidate.
He wanted to get paid, and I think he's proving it right now. He bet on himself. That's one of the few guys in the league recently that bet has paid off for. Yeah, we'll see if they can hold, but especially if this Falcons team makes the playoffs, if they do something in the playoffs, yeah, I mean, he's going to get paid in the offseason too. But yeah, that being said, important NFC South divisional matchup here. Since I brought it upon us, I'll go first. I am leaning, haven't really thought about this hard enough, but I'm leaning Atlanta here. I think the Buccaneers have enough to make this a really fun game all the way to the end again. But maybe this is optimistic fantasy football player. I'm hoping that Falcons offense figures out how to spread out those targets, those touches a little bit better, and maybe this is their get right game.
Hello. I would like to take the opposite of you, my friend. I think Atlanta's 1-3 right now, really, and they haven't figured it out. It's not going to come. There's no way they're going to go from 0 passing touchdowns last week to like 3 or 4 in this coming week. Of course, they also have to, have a really good defense, it seems, but I don't think they're as good as the Broncos defense. I don't think they're as good as maybe the Lions defense, who held Tampa to, I believe, only 20, even though they lost there. I just think, me personally, I mean, the stats, I like the stats here. I think Tampa Bay, far and away, offensively, gonna destroy them. I'm thinking maybe I'm hoping, fantasy wise, like a 43-17 game here for Tampa Bay. Yes.
That's a big.
I mean,
big.
Come
call
on,
right there.
Killian might as well trade Baker to me if you don't like him like that. Come on.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue. Kill, you want to make a pick here? Go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and agree with Reggie. The stats and analytics just don't lie, and the Falcons have been frauds through 4 weeks. I don't see it changing in week 5 against this amazingly high-powered offense led by QB number 1 Baker. So I just don't see it. I mean, I get it, they're at home, but if the last 2 Thursday night matchups have proved anything, the better team is gonna destroy the worst team.
That's fair. I personally always say throw out those analytics in a division game like this because they can get weird. But I'm hearing what you're saying, and it's hard to argue against you. Kyle, go for it.
I'm leaning Falcons here too. I echo Marcus's point. I think divisional games bring out weird shit in bad teams. Even if the Falcons are frauds, but I mean, also a Thursday night game. Thursday night games are weird. It's in Atlanta. I think this division is going to be a toss-up at the end of the year, and I don't see the Bucs creating a ton of separation this early. So honestly, just for that reason, I'm going to take the Falcons.
Yeah. Okay. So we're officially split on our first TNF pick, our panel pick. That'll make for some interesting analysis next week. And let the record show, for better or for worse, that Reggie thinks it is going to be a 30-point blowout for the Bucs potentially. And with all
I
that
put it in the notes.
yeah,
I put it in the notes. No worries.
Let's go. Well, we're definitely clipping this for better or for worse for you, Reg. All right. With that being said, anything else on this TNF game for our last little spiel here for today's episode? Nothing. Going once, going twice. That silence is beautiful in that instance.
Touchdowns. Give me Baker Mayfield to somehow score one, running it in, stealing it from Bucky or Rashad.
Like that.
Give me Bijan to
run.
figure it out and get two touchdowns for Bijan.
Whoa.
I would love to see Mike Evans and Godwin get in the end zone too, but I think Mike Evans might not get it, and it'd be maybe another Godwin 2-piece here. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to back up, the 43 points. So I'm thinking those guys find the end zone for sure.
Hell yeah!
I'm telling you, Kyle Pitts will get a touchdown this game. So
write it down.
Maybe can I raise you to let's get a Kyle Pitts octopus today or on this Thursday night game? Why not? Let's get him a 2-point conversion right after.
Oh.
I was like,
oh, have you guys not heard that term?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite new football terms. Yeah, when they get the touchdown and the 2-point, it has to be on the same score. Then you get an octopus. I wonder if there's any kind of crazy odds on that. But anyway, moving right along, I have one more announcement on this game. We were just gassing up Baker. So I talked about how I'm going to be doing a Jaden Daniels film breakdown later in the week. I will be also doing a Baker Mayfield breakdown because some of the throws that I've seen him put on tape are ridiculous. some quick facts to throw your way before we jump into our final segment of the episode. Baker Mayfield, you alluded to this earlier, Reg, averaged 2.44 seconds time to throw this season, which is the third quickest rate in the entire league and the fastest rate of his career. He's getting out the ball fast and accurately. In week 4, Mayfield averaged 2.2 seconds to throw, which is the third quickest in a game for any quarterback this season. And he also has, for the record, the second most completions, the most yards, and most touchdowns, with the third highest success rate on quick passes all season. So he's doing it at a high level. He's doing it successfully at a high level. And he doesn't have a single interception this year on those same quick passes.
Maybe
Also,
Tom
yeah, go
Brady
ahead.
was a system quarterback.
Ooh. Hey, man, like I also put out in the game, like also Todd Bowles at some point deserves credit as a good NFL head coach. Like he hasn't skipped a beat from the Bruce Arians era there. They feel like the same identity, basically, same culture and everything. And he was a long time ago the Cardinals defensive coordinator the last time we were really relevant. With Baker Mayfield at the helm, this is another little nugget. Since he's arrived there, the Bucs have only lost 5 regular season games, including when they got smacked around by the Bucs by more than 7 points. Translation: when Baker's their quarterback, they're in every game. They have been. He just has brought that level of competence to the quarterback position, which, yeah, they were spoiled with Tom Brady, but before that, they haven't had that for a long, long time. Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of Tom Brady, I would say Baker is the first quarterback in history to be sacked by a retired quarterback when he decided to attack Tom. That was not a great decision because Tom absolutely destroyed him with the comeback.
I saw that. Got a ring out of it, whatever that culture was in Tampa, so can't really talk too much shit to the GOAT, unfortunately. But hey, Baker's got something special here. Hopefully they can keep it brewing. And then last but not least here, just 2 more little highlights about his pressure. He's performed well when not being blitzed, not under pressure this season, producing the 4th highest success rate on such dropbacks. He recorded most of his production in week 4 this past week when he wasn't pressured, throwing for 306 yards, both of his touchdowns in such matchups. And then lastly here, the Falcons, for the record, have generated a league low 22.4% pressure rate this season, the only defense under 24%. So I think that bodes well to Baker absolutely cooking on Thursday Night Football. And you know what? Depending on how well he does, I might just throw some TNF film in that breakdown too, because he might put out some more special throws. Who knows? Folks, if you've still stayed here for what is now pushing on a 3-hour week 4 recap. First of all, thank you. My goodness, thank you for sticking it out. If you're just joining us, if you've come in moments and come and gone, all the same, thank you very much. We will ask you the favor right here, right now. If you haven't done it yet, go ahead, just drop a little like, just drop a little comment, maybe even press that subscribe button that you see on your screen right there. The support would mean a lot. It helps us out as we keep growing. We're getting more subscribers, more views every episode, boys. So we're going to keep this thing going. The last segment for today's episode 8 of the SFL show is going to be a little bit of a SFL breakdown. And in case you are not privy to the land of SFL and the way that we are, let us introduce you. Let us take you on a journey to the Swagger Football League, the league that we all know and love. Established back in 2013. It was just me, my sister, and 2 of my cousins who never even showed up, never signed up for the program, even though I gave them invites. So it was literally just me and Annie this first season playing against 2 bots. And I remember that was the year that Peyton Manning had like 50 passing touchdowns.
55 or something else. Yeah.
Yeah. And because there was only 4 teams and the rosters were like 8 players, like deep, it was the most like laughably juiced league of all time. But it's really a cool like testament to how far we've come now, where like I mean, you're having to start guys that aren't necessarily guaranteed any real roles on their league in this swagger football league, in the modern SFL. And that's because we are a league unlike any other. We are 16 teams. So take that as you will. Deep roster spots. Also have a head coach, which rewards you points or takes away points for team wins and losses. Basically just a gamble on a weekly basis if you think that team is going to win. We also have juiced defensive scoring. So if you have an elite defense, like I remember a few years ago, there was a season the Patriots were averaging like 40 points a game or more. That defense can single-handedly make you have a playoff run.
Flores.
Brian Flores, if you are a Vikings defense owner this year, for example, sacks, turnovers boosted in our league. We figure in real football, defense is half of the game, sometimes even more, because you had to play defense on the other side too. We just wanted to weight it as such. We wanted to give it a little bit more importance in our league, even though it can be so volatile from year to year, to really be able to pinpoint which defenses are going to be good. Last but not least, in terms of different scoring, we have big play bonuses. So if your quarterback, receiver, running back has a play for 40 plus yards, they'll receive a specific boost. 50 plus yards, same thing. And we also have milestone bonuses. So you get to 100 yards rushing, a slight point boost. 250 yards passing, slight point boost, and so on. Those are the first big differences I wanted to set as a foundation here, but anything top of mind for you fellows when you think of the SFL or when you describe its uniqueness to other people?
It's very top heavy. Like, not a lot of teams are going to get lucky. Not a lot of teams are going to get unlucky. I mean, I was looking at, say, I think Azzy's team. Azzy's team is great. I mean, his team scored actually like over 700 points through 4, but he's 1-3. So it's like you got to get lucky who you play, who you don't play. It's just fantasy, just to a more boomer bust extent in our league, I'd say.
100%. To your point, Reg, like I think you won a game this week as the second lowest scorer in the entire league, but you just happened to go up against the lowest scorer in the league right there.
I want to bring up that lowest score, Tony. Tony is currently starting Jordan Akins this week, who's projected 1.2. So yeah, that's just how deep our league is we are literally picking up guys that have never been listed as a possible target on the field.
Yeah, we are starting 0.5% owned players in our league at times. So like that, it is absolutely like a super immersive experience because you have to be on top of the waiver wire. You have to be on top of your strengths and weaknesses before they kind of start snowballing on top of each other. And it's hyper competitive because of that. Like I am the owner of the league and commissioner of the league, founder, whatever. And I have not won a championship since we made it a money league. So like, there's a lot of parity in the league. Often we don't find ourselves like with back-to-back champions. We don't even find ourselves with back-to-back people going to the championship in the same year even. Like Gus, who I think about as somebody who's had ups and downs in the league. Like there are points where he was a bottom feeder. There are points where he was like a perennial contender. Now he's back to like being competitive in the league on a year in, year out basis. And I think because of that, like, we have a lot of family, a lot of friends, a lot of history in this league. You start building like strategies. You start understanding like ways to shape your roster. Like for me, for example, I'm in kind of a predicament where I have 7 wide receivers on my roster, despite having a roster limit of 6 wide receivers. And you're able to do that when you flirt around with the IR, but then that prevents you from, let's say, making any transactions while that player is locked in the IR. But those are the things you just have to do in this league to get a competitive advantage at points. Yeah, we can talk about more league stuff in general, but any other storylines top of your guys' mind for this?
The 3-way trade. I mean, we could like quickly break it down. I could like pull it up. But I mean, to your point, what you said earlier, I won a match with like 100 points scored. for me, that's cool. That's awesome. But like, I'm not gonna win the league if I'm scoring 100 every week. So I had to say, okay, guys, I'm gonna have to ship off some players to really just strengthen the fullness of my roster because I really don't even have like a pure running back. Like I came into the draft this season like I was thinking, yeah, like fuck the running backs. It's gonna be big boom. We're gonna get like Keenan Allen. I'm gonna get Travis Kelsey, Mark Andrews, Puka Nakua, and then just everything falls apart. And I'm like, now I'm sitting here 3-1. It's great. Like I'm closer to the playoffs, but I don't feel good about making the playoffs.
Yeah, and to the point of it being so top heavy, because you have such like disparities between the best players on your roster and the worst players on your roster, injuries are that much more devastating in our league. If one of your best players goes down, it is really, really hard to replace that production. I guess one of the benefits is that in our league, like handcuffs are encouraged to be rosterable. Like, so a lot of people actually have the backups that will see increased usage immediately on their rosters already. So that's a fun little wrinkle. And then also, I guess quarterbacks is something I didn't mention, weighted very differently too. Naturally, there's only 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. So when you have a 16-team roster or league, you have to think about how quickly those quarterback numbers dwindle. And so because of that, there's been, I mean, Kyle, you could probably speak to it better. There was a stretch where Kyle made a playoff run last year where he had like a month plus of quarterback play where he was getting like less than 10 points a game from his QB and was just winning because of the strength of his roster.
Listen, it's I've gone 1-1 in games that I've gotten less than 10 points from my quarterback this year, but I guess that's just part of my identity as a fantasy player. But yeah, I won a game with Tommy DeVito,
Like important playoff
implication
game with Tommy DeVito
yeah,
too.
miracles happen.
Yeah, man. The former champ, not in the league last year, but the winner of our league last year had Joe Flacco starting in the championship. Definitely was not rostered across the league to start the season. So those are the kind of things that can also provide like huge wrinkles in our league. Like Puka Nakua was a waiver wire ad last year that was damn near league or season saving for low. You can get those kind of impactful players in this league where you might not be able to otherwise. Anything else? Any other storylines? Just general synopsis of the SFL. This is mainly just us doing a little Sparknotes for the viewers and thinking we'll definitely do a deeper dive at some point. But is there anything else that you're just itching to tell the folks about our league so far?
It's a good time.
I mean, I'll probably break it down when it's like official and all, and when we get like a bigger episode probably. But the big three-way trade that I was a part of, pretty awesome. Was just I came to these guys. These guys came to me. We all came together. Sorry. Pause. Azzy 1-3, Jared 1-3. I'm the big guy 3-1 with 100 points per week team. Said, hey guys, I'll give you Kelsey. I'll give you Wicks. Just help me out, and I'll help you out. Yeah, it was like literally just perfect. I don't know how we did it in a day, but we did it, and I'm glad we did it because I think it honestly helps everyone. But yeah, fantasy is great. Fantasy trading is another element, and I mean, Killian, you could talk about that more because I know a lot of people are trying to trade with you. You're trying to trade with them, but you're just you're just a guy. Here's a guy that knows how to ruffle up some feathers with trades.
Tell him, Chris Collinsworth.
Well, I'll just start off with that CMC trade up there. Basically, got him for a bag of chips, but as it stands right now, who knows? I might just be getting the air and the chips with CMC. So I don't know. It's all about the gamble. It's all about the swing. And it's always about finding middle ground. I usually don't start with the middle ground, as most people know. I definitely start below ground and work my way up to the middle ground. But it's always interesting because in the first few weeks of the season, you have guys like Derek Carr who were QB2, QB3, and I was like, man, this is not going to last. And you go around the league and you're like, hey, I need to get rid of this guy because I need to capitalize on this value. I was just lucky enough to talk to the guy that just had lost Jordan Love, and in return, I received the number 2 defense in the league. And again, I've done a great job at picking the exact time when they go off to put them on my bench, but that's fantasy, So you just gotta. It's like almost like a stock market in a way. You got to read the highs and the lows and expect to sell off the highs and then buy back in at the lows, because that's really how you make or break your trades.
100%. I think you and Reg got to be up there for most all-time SFL trades executed. I would
Yeah.
I would have to guess that Killian has the lead in trade offers, but
Oh yeah.
But Reg, you've definitely given him a run for your money, or his money, in some of those late season trades you've pulled off time and time again.
I think me and Reggie have the
last
biggest
couple of
trade
years,
ever.
yeah. Huh?
I think we have the biggest trade ever in SFL history, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we basically flipped the rosters that one
Yeah,
year.
I remember that. Wasn't Travis Kelce involved in that one too, right?
Yes, he was.
I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
He was.
Full circle. How beautiful. Anything else on this front page here? I guess one big thing is that on top of our main league of the SFL, we launched Dynasty League this past offseason, or this past summer. Also launched a D-Dogs League that we're all just kind of making it work, learning about defensive players as we go. But that one's been kind of a fun side hustle too. I'm sure we'll find ways to highlight both of those leagues at different points. Right now, I know Kyle's league is just his team is a wagon in Dynasty. It almost had 300 points this past week. Crazy.
I don't know what happened.
Drafted well. That's what happened. And then not a crazy waiver wire this week. If there was maybe a couple other bigger names, maybe I'd highlight them. But some nice sneaky additions, some good depth pieces for folks. Did you guys have anything that caught your eye there, or do you guys want to move along?
I'll just shout out Kyle's brother Shane. I think Jalen Polk is going to become wide receiver 1 in the next 2 weeks, and
you have to imagine if they eventually get Drake May out there too, they're going to have some natural chemistry as incoming rookies together. Polk's got a lot of talent. He showed that at Washington. Probably be able to show that if New England can get some kind of vertical passing game. Reggie, what do you got?
I mean, yeah, I've been seeing plenty of tweets about Polk and how he's like leading not only the rookies, but like kind of in the league in the metrics of the average separation score.
That's my favorite new metric right there. I'm going to use that every opportunity that I have. He's a baller. The Washington has produced a lot of good pros recently, and we haven't even seen Mike Penix get his opportunity yet. Well, then, if you guys are cool with that, I'll trot into a couple graphics I have here, and then we can call it a day. First one, we have courtesy of ESPN. These don't really mean anything. This is computer generated, but these are our current power rankings across the league. Brought to you by Snickers, not from us. We're definitely not endorsed by them, but ESPN is. So right here, if you're seeing, it shows you the placement and the power rankings, at least based off how the computer was rating your teams in preseason versus through 4 weeks in the season. Right now, I'm lucky enough, your boy is at number 1. Looks like Kill, you stayed rock steady at number 2. And then we got Kyle at number 3 too. That's 243 up at the top for the power ranking.
Oh, that is crazy, you guys.
We'll take that.
Look at that jump.
Where am I at? Hold
and
on.
then and then Reggie's sitting rock steady
Yes.
at that number 10 right there. But that's where, again, that doesn't mean anything. I think I've seen multiple years in a row that around this part of the year, the person who ends up being the league champ is like middle to bottom of the pack at this point. But in terms of movement, though, from draft day, Kyle's team looks like it's vastly overperformed at least the CPU projections. 10 slots up on that power ranking. Not too shabby. My poor sister Annie, who has been absolutely decimated by injuries, down 14 slots from her original draft position. That's kind of going to happen when you have Christian McCaffrey as your keeper and Hollywood Brown as your like top or second receiver taken. So just brutal luck for her.
I think she also has Brandon Ayuk, and he hasn't been great at all.
Yeah, and then you have a receiver who missed training camp. That's an unfortunate combination of situations for her. Ultimately, I have faith. She got her first win last week. So did Lauren. I believe we don't have any winless teams, right? Because of that, which I guess we'll find out right here. I'll just move along right to this next graphic, which is our current division standings across the league. We were seeing Magically Delicious right there. You just gave Shane a shout out, Kill. He is at the top of the Champions Division right now, one game ahead of his brother, Kyle. Who won that first match between you guys? Have you played twice already, or is it just
We're about to play for the second time.
Yeah.
He beat me week 2 by 7 points.
Oh, wow. Okay, so big rematch there.
Yeah.
And looks like the two of you are going to be fighting off Az and Troy there, who both have sneakily good teams too. And we're just talking about how Azzy was a part of that big 3-way trade there. Reg?
Sorry, I won by 7 points.
Oh, okay. Heard. Okay, so correct the record right there.
Yeah.
Still a big rematch.
Yeah.
But so that's even bigger then. If you beat him this week, looks like you'll be outright first place with the tiebreaker over him, which could be big down the stretch. In the gold division, your boy checking in at first right now. I dropped week 1 against Gus, and I won 3 straight there. Team's clicking now, feeling good.
Highest playoff percentage.
That's true. I will take that. I will absolutely take that.
Single percent.
Division has gotten a little banged up. My division mates, I'll take that. But it's just the name of the game in fantasy. Moving along to the silver division. I didn't realize, by the way, that all 4 of us are in different divisions this year. So all 4 of us could be division winners? Question mark. But yeah, that'd be sick. But so Reg, you're right there. It says you're in second. Is that because did you lose to Tony?
No, you just won.
I think it's because of points. I genuinely think it's because of points because I beat him this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I lost to. I think I did lose to him in week 1 as well. So I think it is based on points.
Yeah. So if you split a head-to-head ESPN system, gives the next tiebreaker is points 4. So that's definitely why. But yeah, still a really competitive division. In fact, the only one as of right now with 2, 3, and 1 teams. Lowe and Annie struggling a little bit right now. Still very much within reach as long as they can get some lucky bounces and some injury luck corrected. Quick shout out to, if this is okay, Kyle, quick shout out to new father, Nate. As of today, SFL fam by extension, kind of gets a little bigger. Super cool. Congrats to him and Nate, or him and Taylor, obviously. And congrats to you and Lowe, Kyle, for being aunties and uncles.
Yeah.
Super cool. And on top of that, Nate in his first year is sitting pretty at 3-1 right now, despite being the Tua owner in our league, if I'm not mistaken. So also had that wrench kind of thrown into his roster and has still overcome that a little bit. But Kill, you are right there behind him at 2-2. Have you guys played twice already this year or just once?
We're about to play this week, and he's got a few guys on bye, so
All
not
right.
gonna say, but you know.
No, yeah, for sure. He could prioritize what he's got to prioritize, but we'll see how that week plays out then. And then so yeah, Bronze Division, which in case this is another thing I guess I hadn't mentioned before, in case you didn't know, we do a relegation style realignment every offseason. So the best 4 regular season records go to the Champions Division every year. Next 4 go to gold, and so on. In a year like this one, where we have new members, which Bronze Division ended up being 4 new members, even though Kill is new and new to other people, not new to us. And so it actually just ended up working out that the Bronze Division is all newbies this year, but also shaping up to be a competitive one. Quinn is hanging in there in year 1 too. Yeah, it looks like 3 teams in that division with 80% or higher chance to make the playoffs. Only one better is the Champions Division, which checks out with 86 and above for those top 3. It's kind of crazy. Any takeaways, any notes just looking at these division standings?
I'll be honest. I should have lost this last week too. I'm not gonna lie. Tony, if you look back at the matchup, Tony didn't even start a guy at flex, man. I should have fucking lost. I should be like 2-2 right now. I'm not gonna lie, but we're getting lucky. We're getting really lucky. I don't know why I didn't. I was about to text him and be like, "Did you do this on purpose? Like, were you trying to get like a waiver wire deal or something?"
He was like active in the day too during that game.
Yeah,
but.
so I don't know. I feel good at 3-1 with the shit roster. We'll probably break it down in the next slide. I'm scoring not too much here. I don't think I even broke like. I mean, we'll get into it. Holy shit! Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Kyle, you got any notes seeing division standings?
Through 4 weeks, there's no winless team and there's no undefeated team. Just shows that any given Sunday.
Damn right. Any given Sunday in the SFL, always. Kyle?
Yeah, I think it's pretty evenly spread, especially within divisions. I think just injuries have just decimated a few specific teams, which is tough. We've also obviously touched on the amount of injuries and the abnormality of the early season injuries, especially to superstar players, which is tough, but a lot of season left.
Lot of season left. Yeah, for better and for worse, because
right.
there might be some more tricks up the injury sleeve. But let's move on to our final SFL slide here. Final actual content piece of today's episode. Once again, thank you all for sticking as long as you have here. Thank you, Kyle and Kill, for joining me and Reg for another episode. Here we go. Breaking down this final slide right here, this final graphic. Through 4 weeks, this is where our total league standings lie. If I'm not mistaken, this would be directly translated to what the playoff seeds would be if the season ended today.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because yes, top 4 right there would be those division winners, and then goes beyond that. Reg, points or not, you're sitting right there, cozy at 5th, right there, brother.
Negative 20 differential in points.
Okay,
I'm like the Atlanta Falcons or something over here. Like I don't know, like just I'm doing it. I'm getting lucky. Make the name. Huh?
Defense wins games.
That's right. Got the Vikings D.
Dude, and then to your point, you brought up Azzy earlier. My goodness.
Yeah.
Those points allowed. He is he's literally 100 points ahead of the next closest person.
He has a negative 220 point differential.
Really unlucky.
That's crazy. And yeah, on top of Tyreek obviously underperforming and Waddle underperforming because of the Tua stuff. That's brutal. Jared in year 1 also been decimated by injuries. He's the step burrow. I'm stuck, kind of stuck in 16th place right there with some brutal injury luck as well. He's probably right behind Annie with some of the worst so far this season. I think he had Puka, and who was the other star?
AJ Brown.
He had a cup.
He had Cup, and then AJ Brown, and somebody else too. Yeah, that went down crazy. But that's the name of the game. It's all about overcoming those injuries. It's all about luck for everybody. So it's just about maximizing the luck on your end, controlling what you can control. There's still going to be a lot that we can't for the rest of the season, but I'm excited to see how this goes. And I really hadn't done the full circle math that we're all in different divisions. So let's get the top 4 seeds, boys. Why not?
I mean, I hope so, man. If a minus 150 or minus 20 differential will do it, fuck it.
You just got to make it in the playoffs. That's the other thing. Top 12 make it. So it's not like it's too much of a competition to be in that top 3/4 of the league. And that has kind of worked out that in years past, the teams that are just totally screwed by injuries at the end of the year usually don't end up making it into that final playoff run. But let's hope that that's none of us. Let's keep this moving in the right direction, please. I think that's all I got here, fellas. Do you have anything else, fantasy wise, football wise, between episodes you want to tell the people?
I'm gonna need to see this 3-way trade because I immediately saw that one trade on ESPN. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Do we want to pull it up real quick? Can we add it to the slide real quick?
I don't know if I can add it. Oh yeah, we can. Here, let me back out of it first. I think I can just screen share the actual. If you want to send me the picture too, I could just screen share that pretty easily.
Yeah, I'll just send you.
Yeah, let's do that. But yeah, Reg, Jared, Azzy made an awesome, really delicately crafted 3-way trade where they also ended up putting in. Oh yeah, I'm getting it right here. Where they're gonna have to, basically, Reg, you're gonna be able to explain this better than me, but gonna have to do trade by trade to get it all done. Released it in the group me though, which is our main league chat for approval, and it looks like it is off to a roaring uphold right here. But anything else you want to tell people as I pull it up here, Rich?
I got one thing. I'm very disappointed I wasn't included in the talk.
No, I knew you would be a little jealous or something.
Maybe we'll do our own 2-4-3 3-way.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I mean, we could cook something up. But
Hey, you want bacon?
Yeah, man. Well, let me process this trade. Let's see what I've got first, and then we'll go with. I mean, you could even I don't know if you guys saw, but on the league standings, there's a column called moves.
Yeah.
And I'm at the top of the list right now with 14 leading.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, step it up.
You got to know. I'm ready to make moves. You know that.
Start adding and dropping and adding and dropping. And
I have 3 roster spots open. I'll do it today. Watch.
Yeah, but we do have to get Marcus to approve trade by trade. That way we don't get over our limits because, again, we do have position limits, 6 wide receivers, 5 running backs. It looked like to me that we are doing sort of like a 2-for-2, 1-for-1 straight up like between teams, but we have to like orchestrate it enough and do it like in a process where, we don't go over limits because we do not want to drop players, of course. But yeah, it looks pretty good. I mean, I'm looking at my three-way trade chat. Jared's telling me and Az like, hey, the first one has to go through because he'd be over the limit for running backs. And yeah, we'll get that approved, get that going, go one by one, try to get that done before Thursday night, hopefully. And yeah, you got the trade up, Marcus, or not yet?
No, my HDMI is spazzing out, but oh, here we go. All right. I'm going to go screen share now. Let me get back on the other camera because that's switched now. And Get the screen up.
Was that a cat jersey I'm seeing?
Yes, sir. I was telling Kyle earlier, had to have a moment of compassion for Wolves faithful today as it goes final.
I'm wearing a Charles Gibson in honor of the Wolves Nation. Also, he got real emotional about Derrick Rose and was talking about him like he had died. So yeah, I think we're matching the level.
Taj?
Taj, yeah, you didn't see that? He like started crying.
I gotta go check that out.
Bulls legend. All right, don't show us again. Can we see this? Okay. Can we see this?
I think maybe zoom out a little.
Oh, that's me. My bad.
No, you're good.
I didn't realize that affected the whole thing.
How's this?
Good.
All right. Floor is yours, Reg, but I my time is running out, so let's not linger too much longer.
So again, I was coming to these guys. These guys came to me. We decided to, these guys need to win now, and I don't really need to win now with this 3-1. Because again, like you said, top 12 make the playoffs. So I'm really just trying to make my roster more well-rounded. So I'm selling a Travis Kelce. I'm selling a Dontavian Wicks. I'm selling a Rico Dowdle. I'm selling a Tank Dell to kind of just bolster my running backs. I'm getting a Devin Singletary. I'm getting a Braylon Allen. I like these guys. I mean, of course, in New York, both of these guys, not on the best teams, but it's definitely better than a Rico Dowdle, for me at least, because Devin Singletary's for sure the guy there in New York. Braylon Allen can definitely upsert Breece Hall, but I mean, if Breece Hall goes down, he's definitely the guy. And I don't like Rico Dowdle that much having to split roles. I mean, he did find the end zone last week, but not loving Carson Steele. I'm not loving my running backs in general, so I did that. And then, of course, Azzy wanted a Kelce, wanted a Wicks. We had to do okay, well, you can't take both of them. How about you just take Dobbs? And then Jared gets Wicks. And Jared was like, I want JMO, give me JMO. And then Azzy's like, well, but I don't want to get, I want Wicks and JMO and Kelce. I'm like, brother. So yeah, we really did found a way to feel pretty happy with what we were able to do here. Kelce going Azzy's way. He's also getting Dobbs and Mostert from Jared. I'm also putting on their Tank Dell for him. Again, my team, real quick: Devin Singletary, Conklin, Braylon, Waddle, and then Jared. He's getting JMO, Wicks, Dowdle, and I threw in there Guarendo handcuff we were talking about before. Pretty valuable there. If Mort Mason goes down, that's great for him. You could say, okay, maybe Jared is getting a really nice return, giving away only 3 players and getting back 4. But again, Guarendo is a handcuff at best. But I really didn't want to do this, but I really did want to see if I could trust Kelce, trust Wicks, but I gotta have points from my running back position if I want to win games more and more. Don't feel good again at 3-1 and not even being able to score 500 points through 4 weeks in our league. Really sucks.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say I put the hat on so I could take it off to you 3 fellas because holy crap.
Dude,
yeah, I think it's pretty
ahead.
solid. I think it's pretty evenly spread. On initial look-see through, I do think Jared might have by a smidge won the trade, but I think in general where all you guys are at with your rosters, I think everyone is getting a good mix of impact guys and change up in roster and position strength. So
yeah, and it looks like you said, Reg, kind of selling definitely high on Wicks, even though he could keep piling this on, and Kelce is coming off his best week of the season, versus potentially like some of these guys, the running backs that you're getting, like Devin Singletary and Braylon Allen, they may just be even more involved by the end of the year, which is, like you said, where you're trying to make this trade to win a championship,
Right.
not to just get you to the playoffs. So, yeah, I see the value in all three sides, and that's tough to find. And that's why I said, like in the SFL chat, like, who am I to get in the way of this? You guys figured out all the value. Everybody was happy with what they got in return. Like, need I say more? Like, that's what you do trades for. And of course, one of these might end up being like the clear winner, but hindsight is 2020, and I don't think you can clearly say right now who's going to win the trade. It's very dependent on how these guys finish the year.
Yeah,
I'm
if
just
they
gonna-
get injured or whoever. Yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead, Kill.
I vetoed on ESPN because I saw that trade, but now seeing this, yeah, no doubt. You guys put too much work. I go for it. I have no notes, nothing.
I mean, I could break down the numbers again real quick. Like, as he's sending out like 84.5 on average rated ESPN grades, he's kind of downgraded to 82. But again, he loves Kelsey here. I'm sending out 81.6 away, getting back 84.5. I mean, yeah, it feels great. Like, oh, Reggie's being just a headmaster. He's like clearly doing great. I mean, yeah, but like, of course, Jalen Waddle, dependent on Tua. Tua's not going to be. We talked about it before. Week 8. Braylon Allen still behind Brees Hall. Conklin, of course, dependent on Aaron Rodgers. Singletary is in New York, is behind Daniel Jones, and then of course Jared, 83 rated, leaving his team, coming back 81 rated. You could again argue that he's actually kind of going away on top here, with even the potential of Isaac becoming that first guy in San Fran.
I gotta feel like it was a definite bolster up on Jared's part to get better for a matchup. But just me, you know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he does want to get this done right away. No, kidding. We all do, but
no, objectively though, yeah, he has a lot of holes with injuries right now. Seems to plug a lot of those, and like you said, the strengths you are trying to build upon, I think this definitely gives you. I'm excited. It's a cool day in SFL history to get a 3-way trade, and I can go through and start, especially since everybody was upholding on the group me. I can go ahead and just start upholding each one to make it official. Just haven't had much time, recording a podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you even like just being the pioneer here on this end, and then also just breaking it down. The graphic was very, very intricate, very cool.
I was trying to get the keep trade cut rankings, but apparently they didn't have a couple players rated, which was kind of weird. But yeah, we just stayed with ESPN there.
Classic SFL difference from normal leagues right there. They're like, wait, why do you even want to have Isaac Brando on your roster?
Right.
No, man, that's awesome. Yeah, appreciate you sharing that. And then I guess I can say appreciate one more time everybody tuning in today. Long beast of an episode, and we didn't even do the film breakdowns that we were initially going to do. But I appreciate you fellas sticking it out with me. Appreciate the input, the awesome input you guys are all providing. Let's keep it rolling, y'all. I'm having a fun time doing this, and I think it's getting smoother episode by episode. So just keep trending in the right direction. Anything you guys got to say to the people?
Couldn't do it without you, Kamish. Couldn't do it without you.
Right.
Hey, man, it's a fun thing to be doing with you guys, and I mean, I use all this energy and waste all my freaking brain space on these meaningless statistics anyway, so might as well put them somewhere useful, right? It's been a blast, and more to come. We're gonna be coming at you guys next with a week 5. Can't believe it's already here. Week 5 preview. We'll be coming at you with some film breakdowns as well, as I stop presenting here and bring it close for our final outro. Yeah, no official date for when we're going to record that next one just yet, but I am not working a Cardinals game this week. They're on the road to San Francisco, so I do have this weekend open. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. We made our SFL TNF picks too, split down the board. I think it was me and Kyle Falcons, Kill Reg, Bucks, right?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Go.
So we'll check back in on that. And yeah, last space to say anything here to the world, to the void. What do you guys got?
All I got.
Yeah, if you couldn't see, that was a very firm skull by Kyle right there. All right, well, much love, fellas. Thanks again. I'm gonna hit that stop recording button. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't yet, go hit that like button. Go hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment if you don't mind. It all helps us out. We're trying to game this algorithm just for you guys so we can bring you even better content. That's all I have to say about that. Have a lovely weekend. Go Cardinals. We'll be back with another episode soon. All right. And that's all she wrote. I appreciate you guys.